lover. I love you, and I'll never try to hurt you.
Okay, I'm starting on podcast 5. I was about to try to fast track the AD timeline so I can get to the present, but I've learned the hard way. Our black-brown history mixed with pagan leper history is extensive and complex. Therefore, I have to be thorough and ridiculously long-winded. Please remember to take needed breaks and give yourself time to research and study, as I mentioned earlier. Just as I showed the setup of the pagan leper Satanists and the minions who followed suit in the BCs to the early and middle ADs, I will continue to show how Satan and his pagan minions continued their evil reign through the middle 1500s AD to the 2000 ADs, using the same dark modus operandi. As I've said and shown in other pods and books, nothing ever really changes as far as the setup itself goes. The only thing that does change is the new and improved inventions in the field of technology, media, entertainment, etc. And of course, the players change. The players change with each new generation of masses, overseers / sellouts, and lost sheep. From the BCs to the ADs, once the Dark Master has put his minions into position to help collect souls, bodies, in Africa, Middle East, Asia, India, Australia, the Americas, some parts of Europe, Canada, and Antarctica. He used the exact same setup from the Old World Order, which included my little boards here. Their stolen pagan government, their stolen pagan religion and missions and missionaries, their stolen pagan education systems, their stolen pagan medical field and hospitals, their stolen pagan entertainment, and they stole our culture and then put their stank on it using Satanism, paganism. Please prove me wrong. Once they have us addicted and brainwashed under their old world order, new world order setup, they control us through the same tools. Pagan occult, hidden Satanism, warring, violence, sexual debauchery, i.e. prostitution and whoring, pedophilia, polygamy, the LGBTQ agenda, bestiality, etc. Drug and alcohol abuse, which all leads to mental illness, medications, and more. I'll be abbreviating their setup agendas as OWVSDA to get to the point. They renamed the New World Order from the Old World Order, the same old same. Per the timeline, it seems as if around 1700 AD, the OWO became the NWO, and they were able to get more and more original children to turn from the Creator and the original blueprint and accept Satanism / paganism. In fact, the NWO is what we are governed under as I write, type, and record this information. I said I would give a breakdown of folks who have helped to lead us to the slaughter and build the facade pagans call a United States and United Nations, even though we've never been united, by sharing my list of faux shenanigans, liars, sellouts, overseers, and free people of color. And I will. There are plenty of them. The middle / the present, 1700 ADs to 1800 ADs. Old World Order blood contracts from the early thousands to like 1600s were BS. Land agreements between Europeans and Africans, later upgraded and disguised as the New World Order in order to get the American children and grandchildren of the true black-brown natives to sign new BS pagan blood contracts and land agreements, gave away birthrights and land in the Americas. So they came from Africa with the same old tricks into America. I still believe all of the land was one gigantic landmass, and for all I know, it still is. Why should I blindly believe pagans and sellouts? But whether together or separated, we have been continuously warring and slaving for the same group that our parents and parents' parents warred and slaved with. It's sad, but it's true. New blood contracts were made as a declaration of unity and so-called freedom. Amendments looked as if our fam would get a piece of the pie if we went along with them instead of us. The gotcha for our ascots was we shouldn't have been trusting pagans, nor signing our souls away in any way. So it served us right when we were once again turned on and used like toilet paper. Of course, my heart goes out to my ancestors when I see them being abused and talked down on. But I balance it, as I also have to admit to myself that they knew who these people were, yet continued to war for them, work for them, marry them, and go against the Creator and the family for them, just like many of us are doing today. On July 4th of 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted by the Continental Congress, claiming 13 made-up states, which pagan leper Euros did not own to begin with, were no longer connected to the Brits that infiltrated and colonized slaves back in the 1500s AD. The Old World Order became the New World Order in the Americas as pagans fought over control in what is now called the Revolutionary War. Please keep in mind, the natives, who were called savages, were being massacred for their land and possessions after they'd invited the colonizers in and dabbled in pagan occult and plenty of sex and procreation. Pagans did what pagans do and turned on them, making any excuse under the sun while doing it. Those natives were not the Indians that pagans show in their history books. They were our black-brown ancestors who later birthed those Indians with leper pagans' help. We see in their history books. Leper pagans don't claim that part of their history, though, and they have wiped out our ancestors' history from the annals. Anyways, Europeans who infiltrated and colonized the Americas claim they did so because they were being forced to abandon their Christian religion. I find that there was a split between the Jesuits, who converted millions to Catholicism while pushing their occult allegedly headed by the Illuminati, versus the Protestant Freemasons, who claimed they no longer wanted to abide by some of the rituals and laws. So we have the Illuminati versus the Freemasons, the Republicans versus the Democrats. Same old, same old. Red versus blue. Whether Illuminati or Freemason, later called Republican conservatives or Democrat liberals, our Creator asked his children to avoid secret societies, being that we have to pledge to the morning star, Lucifer. Trickery. And please keep in mind that the Brits supposedly abolished slavery in 1807, yet the pagan leper Euros in the Americas were still steeped in slavery elbow deep. As always, there's one side claiming they were sent as saviors, yet they keep us committed to Satan in one way or another, versus the other side also lying, committed, and steeped. And they both war for control of us, sacrificing and sending anyone helping to hell. The more you study and research, the more you will realize that both sides were actually bragging about how they reintroduced and then indoctrinated our fam into using a cult over and over again, knowing the Creator would move out of the way. As I said, sacrificing through murdering as well as raping, pillaging, and conjuring during rituals were mistakes and setups clueless, greedy Africans had already experienced, but obviously forgot. So many of our lost ancestors have been killed off in ritualistic wars in the past, unfortunately preventing them from passing the knowledge on. And the ones who were on the earth were not on their job because they were chasing the American dream/nightmare for our asses. Therefore, without warning or the Creator's protection, pagans were in prime pouncing position to attack our native families with the artillery our free families were helping to manufacture, per the 1700s, 1900s industrial revolutions. You can research from the 1500 to the 1900 ADs, and pagans and sellouts will tell much to do about nothing. They will brag about warring, but never how our fam walked into their traps and helped. Marrying into the pagan family, denouncing the native family and the roots that come with it, taking on an English name through baptism, also known as converting, in order to be considered free men and women. It was like walking the last mile into the enslavement trap. After all, conversion is against the Creator's blueprint, per original word, for a good darn reason. I mention the reasons in my books and give examples why. I'll give a perfect example right here, right now, during this pod in real time. Once again, of why we are not supposed to convert. Because when we convert, we go against warnings ensured word, which means we denounce our lineage. The same lineage that is steeped in the Creator's word and blueprint, which pagans stole and claimed for their own, merging it with their pagan rituals and later calling it Christianity and parts of Judaism and Islam. Then it will be used against us and our offspring to brainwash us and rule us. Ta-da! I have a breakdown of that entire history timeline, as it is very important to know when putting our history together and knowing what to avoid in the future. Of course, this information should be verified through your own research. That way we can meet on the same page as we pass it on to our future generations. Okay, so I need to show just a few of the things I pulled trying to get the contracts together and the things that we signed in the New World Order. America's explicit covenant with God, how a nation pledged to God can save a world or lose it. This is just showing the covenant that we allegedly made with America. And by that, I mean the pagans who came over here to rule the land from Britain. These are things, again, that I'll be putting on the podcast, on the website for the podcast. This, my voice is going out, so I apologize. I have to keep going. This is also the dire consequences of deserting the covenant. It's basically a blood contract. It's part of that. The Library of Congress exhibitions, declaring independence, drafting the documents, Jefferson's original rough draft of the Declaration of Independence. And this breaks down the information of who they included and who they didn't. And you can pretty much guess who they included and who they didn't. 4th of July just passed, and that's what we've all been talking about, the fact that we were not included in any of these laws. This is the 1776 history and Freemasons. So it talks about how the Freemasons, let's see here, during the late 1700s, it was one of the organizations most responsible for spreading the ideas of enlightenment, the dignity of man and the liberty of the individual. So this is how they got many of the free men and slaves to go along with what they ended up writing up and pushing down our throats as a contract. 9 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons during their lifetime, though not necessarily in 1776. I don't believe that. They name a few: William Ellery, Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, Joseph Hewes, William Hooper, Robert Treat Paine, Richard Stockton, George Walton, and William Whipple. And that's just for me putting in 1776 and Freemasons. I got 1,320,000 results. None of them were black that we know of, even though now many times they are pulling names and saying that one of the presidents was black, different things like that. Thomas Jefferson's vision of equality was not all-inclusive, but it was transformative. And so this just talks about the contracts again. 3 reasons the American Revolution was a mistake. This is somebody disagreeing with it. I always play both sides, devil advocate, why we should go back or go behind whatever we're going behind, as well as why we shouldn't. This is just a copy of the Declaration with all the signatures. At the dawn of the American Revolution, a young member of Virginia's elite planter class penned the sentence that has reverberated through history. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it was a lie, because all men were not created equal per them. We were still enslaved, and it took forever for them to back off and cut out this so-called enslavement. Then I have information about the American Indians. They fit in because because it was our family, they also were going through the same thing we were going through. So this just gives a brief history of the land transfers between American Indians and the United States government. And that's what it was all about, a land grab where Britain and the Americans that came over were fighting over the land that belonged to the natives of the land. This talks about the contract signed by the natives to sell the land, the Dawes Act, the Homestead Act of 1862. And yeah, the Dawes Act was in 1887. It allowed them access to our courts, ability to sit on juries, ability to serve in public offices, and the use of limited school facilities. So they were going to allow the Indians to do these things, whereas the Indians natives had allowed them to do those things. But they took over and switched everything around. This talks about the late 1800 black Indian freedmen who were also the original Indians, and the Dawes Act, so forth and so on. I'm going to have all that information available. I'm not going to get into it because I have so much to go through. Land contracts in 1500 in Africa. Talks about the different land contracts that we had where we gave away some of the land in Africa. The Atlantic slave trade, Angola, Africa, Portugal, Western Africa. Stolen land grab in ancient Africa. Whose interests were served? They bring up Chinese land. Land was stolen under apartheid. Black tribes asking for the return of stolen land. Plotting the land grab. And this basically tells about the trans-Saharan trade, the first one. The empires, the Muslim influence, Mansa Musa, trade goods, trade routes, the spread of Islam, the Mali Empire in the 1300s, the Suleiman Keita in 1400. I guess that's when he took that land over. 1300 to 1400, Marinid dynasty, and then the 1300 to 1400 century Solomonic dynasty. It gives the breakdown of basically allowing our mixed children to come in and give away land to their pagan clans and kick us off land and enslave us. And then there was the Scramble for Africa. And this is 30 pages long. But I pulled it off of Wikipedia. And it just talks about all of the pagan-led countries that have tried to come in and grab up the land that belongs to the natives. So I'm going to move on. Presenting our present list of famous liars, famous sellout overseers who have portrayed themselves as innocent captured slaves and or freed people of color, when in fact they sold their souls and themselves to their so-called pagan masters, making them the sellouts and or overseers they agreed to be over lost sheep, the lost tribes, their own brothers and sisters. So after we sold our souls in Africa, we came over here and sold our souls in America, allegedly, per history, their history. And this is some of the people who have helped with that. I'm going to start with entertainers because the greatest majority are the worst alleged leaders who didn't ask to be leaders, tricking niggas by encouraging them to walk blindly and directly into the slaughter through film, dance, and song. They are snowing grown, naive adults, sadly, but more importantly, they're snowing our babies. Many hide behind music, sports, acting, writing, painting, name it, while selling their souls, becoming urban spies and influencers for money, material crap, and evil. Not all entertainers, only the ones who fit the bill, literally. I will give a few examples in each category to show how we are bamboozled and brainwashed and openly accepting dark, evil actions. In essence, not many realizing that when we do, we are helping Satan and pagans' agendas. Don't be a slave to a master, especially a dark one, family. It has never worked in our favor. I shared many slaves and freemen and women in the 1500 to 1800 ADs who were still under their pagan master and or dad's control, while allegedly helping us to build our own hierarchy. Now, I will start with the present, 20th to 21st centuries. And the first three examples that I'm going to give of the people who sold out in entertainment will be, number one, Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye died at the age of 44, shot to death by his father during an argument, allegedly. His father served no jail time for the murder. Eyebrow up, side eye in motion. When I dug around in the case of our talented brother Marvin, I found that he had been doing coke like 9,000 around the time of his death. I will be as respectful as possible, but I will not sugarcoat sin, abominations, and curses, and the things that have gotten us to the place that we're now at. I'm going to lay it out here per the case. He and his father, who some say was his stepfather, were allegedly at each other's throat and allegedly in some sort of sick sexual relationship through the industry. Even though he was supposedly a reverend, the dad was said to be a cross-dressing homosexual. And per my fraternal/industry research, if parents are pushing the LGBTQ agenda in public or private, it is not uncommon that they have introduced their child into it, many times with them, in the mix. Now let's keep in mind, pagans will be pagans, so it is also not uncommon for them to add in extra drama smothered in lies, which is why I pray for discernment, as I always do while digging around in these cases. And as I rake through the cases for hours at a time, I would always find relatives, friends, ex-lovers, etc., who knew the victims intimately and talked too much. Mind you, I was ecstatic, because that is the only way the truth will come out. More often than not, I can dig it. Folks have whispered behind my back how I am a know-it-all big mouth for years, and I don't care, as long as I am telling the truth. But being that I wasn't in these people's houses or lives, I simply look for the sinks and commonalities that may help us to stay out of the dark. Big mouths truly help with that. Marvin Gaye was in a bad way because he had accepted the indoctrination of the pagan industry. He had accepted a cult over word. He was fighting demons. He was allegedly suicidal along with fighting his elders. A ginormous no-no per word. And though he was leaving us some dynamite music, he was helping to destroy the black fam by pushing the OWO, NWO agenda in the back alleys, as all entertainers are doing by the time they reach his status, whether they want to admit it or not. BJ, mumble rappers, or any rappers on the high rungs of success, LeBron, Kobe, Shaq, the Obamas, Oprah, etc., are all pushing the OWO, NWO, Frat Sorrow agenda, per their own admission in their songs and in their blood contracts, also known as entertainment and job contracts. Pagans don't play. You will have to sign a note of intent, also known as their stupid blood contracts, if you intend to get some of their made-up paper money, houses, Cadillacs, and any other material crap folks sell their souls for. Our ancestors hipped us to this game a long time ago, in the BCs, fam. I have more detailed info regarding Marvin Gaye's case in my books and references, where some researchers have alleged that he was molested by close family members, plus other accusations alleged and proven. But as always, you have access to the same info on the internet and references, so please feel free to do your own research. 2. Before they erase and scrub the evidence, I'll end this case with what I started. Occult, warring, violence, sexual debauchery, drugs and alcohol, etc. were all involved in the demise of our talented brother once he signed his soul away. Number 2, Sam Cooke. Unfortunately, our brother Sam was a member of the 33 Club. Pagans have an ongoing debate about a coincidence documented showing that many of the entertainers and literary folk have died at the age of 33 and a few at 27 because of blood contracts they signed in the industry. I copied the list and added it to my God Forgive Us books, and I've decided to add it here as well. At first, it looked like a coincidence, but once someone sat down and made a list, it began to look like a club, just as some folks had pointed out. Whether it is or isn't, the fact remains too many folks have been snuffed out at ages 27 and 33 after being indoctrinated into the industry. Sam Cooke went through the same personal hell on earth that Marvin Gaye did. He got strung out on sexual debauchery and drugs and alcohol after accepting a cult over word, and he ended up snuffed out in a cold motel room. The woman that was said to have shot him served no jail time, and it was alleged she was used in a setup by his business associates to take him out of the game. As I prayed for discernment, I went back to the old adage, an eye for an eye, and I remembered how so many folks, especially entertainers, have said they worked for the government as an agent or spy, and I wondered how many of these black entertainers got caught up, killed someone, or participated in a killing, and their chickens came home to roost. The MO many of our black entertainers and politicians live is too coincidental to the nonsense pagans admit to in their biographies, movies, and drunk high stupors. Anyway, occult, warring, violence, sexual debauchery, drugs and alcohol, etc. had reared its ugly head again. Again, I'll refer to these evil vices as OWVSDA going forward. Lastly, in the R&B genre, I will add Miss Whitney Houston, our rhythm and blues princess, turned into their pop icon. Be careful of that word icon. It is a watered-down word for idol, and we were warned not to worship idols, yet they worshipped Whit, MJ, Elvis, the Beatles, etc. as idols. Anyways, Whitney's horrific demise was just some years ago, so we can really find almost all of the key players and their OWVSDA agenda at play. Let's start with Clive Davis and the ties the Houston fam had to the industry. Clive Davis is an alleged known dark-ass admitted closeted homosexual, as well as an accused predator/pedo, being that he indoctrinates young folks so early in their careers, just as the Euro lepers Gary Glitter and Lou Pearlman were accused of. Pearlman found all of the sweet cherub-faced groups of children like NSYNC, O-Town, and LFO. And of course, black sellouts and overseers put their 2 cents in, starting as far back as the 60s per my research, all the way up to Puffy with Usher in them, Baby with Wayne, and Chris Stokes with B2K in them, and so on and so forth. The confessions and accusations are all over the net and in the bios. There is definitely a sick, perverted sink and many commonalities when these babies are left in the industry by their parents to sink or swim and make that money after selling their souls. Legal pimping is what I call the dart that these pagans and sellouts are doing to our family. Whitney and Mariah were barely legal when they made it upstairs. It is said Whitney had replaced Phyllis Hyman, who pagans had used and abused through the OWVSDA agenda, and watched as she suicided herself. Being that it was around the time Whitney was chosen, many speculate that was the reason Phyllis wanted out. Others feel she was taken out to keep her quiet. She had begun to blab about the industry dopes and Clyde being a predator. She was gone by the time she was 44. Whitney was 36, and it's said Jennifer Hudson was next in line to take Whitney's place. Side eye to Jennifer Hudson's family murders, familicide, that I researched in my God Forgive Us book. Both of those talented black women, Phyllis and Whit, were reduced to cocaine addicts, with Whit eventually balling out on crack, and elite leper pagans broadcasted her downfall for the world to see, with overseers/sellouts Ray J and Bobby helping in different ways. I refuse to watch that trash, being Bobby Brown then, and I refuse to watch it now. Pagans became wealthy off of her gifts as they mocked and degraded black love and helped destroy their talents. They used her ratings, then robbed her. And I know a big part of the reason is because she stood up to Clive in the gang and played in the dark, just as Phyllis had. It may have been their free will and decision to sell out to the industry, but those devils most definitely set them up to fail so they could swoop in and collect. Her daughter received a pinch of her money, but Whitney is worth billions, and she currently has no heir to really claim it. I feel it was done purposely, being that Bobby Christina was dealt the same fate. She was born under the blood contract and curse as well. She ended up suicided at the age of 22 years old. She didn't even get to procreate. There's nothing new or normal about this evil, and we should be avoiding it and anyone pushing it at all costs. And allow me to add one other important tidbit of info. All 3 of these dynamic voiced children of the tribes were gospel singers before they fought and bought their way into that devilish industry with their souls. Moving on to the rappers. I have 50 bajillion rappers who have sold their souls, admitted to selling their souls, or are dying to sell their souls. Again, I've listed many in my God Forgive Us book and quick references, as well as FBO, but I want to include a few updated ones in this pod because these sneaky pagans have been working overtime, and they have gotten these little knickknacks, females included, to push straight up murder, prostitution, pedophilia, orgies, greed, bastards, disrespect, bred under the satanic pagan occult agenda. Believe it or not, the industry has always been a portal to hell. No one's above kneeling before the Dark Master in Hollywood. But the greatest majority of original children from the tribes would usually wisen up once they realized what pagans were up to. The blues and jazz artists, Motown, Cadillac Records, all of the music up until the 70s was sprinkled with Satanism, but not so many artists were caught up. I always say any is too many, and we've lost plenty to blood contracts, leaving curses for the next generation. Baby, these new generations are in it to win and not to lose, yet steady losing. I have broke down case after case regarding too many of our greats who sold their souls and then died of drug overdoses, faux suicides, heart attacks, car accidents, and murder, as pagans were able to cover up their hand after throwing a boulder. So we keep signing up by the boatload, and we did and we do. Inner rappers of the 80s. I have chapters in my God Forgive Us book about the first famous rap group, the Sugar Hill Gang, and I take excerpts out of a book titled The Big Payback, The History of the Business of Hip Hop, where I was able to put enough of their confessions and testimonies together with my other research and figure out that many of those hip hop rap guys were in gangs during that time. The same type of gangs we have in the streets today, selling what gang members sell and forming rap groups with the proceeds. Again, there is nothing new under the sun. God worship. The same crap they did in the past, they're doing in the present and will be doing in the future if we do not repent and turn back to the path. Just as the young dudes were booing over for the Dark Lord itself and a pagan at the tippy top, so are most young lads today. The names are on the contracts and a few in biographies when we take the time to read them. For instance, as of late, we have a gang war going on from the 70s up through the 2000s, right smack dab in the music industry, and we are losing our babies left and right. Meanwhile, old pagan mofos are getting paid from it. They make lost sheep famous, and they get all types of accolades, but they are dying, gone no longer, walking the earth, while someone collects their insurance payout, and folks are acting as if it is normal and okay. A cult is thick. Cardi B, one of our most famous female rappers, talks about it. She's warned us about several things she can be killed for. The most important info being that her songs attract demons and she wants out so she can be a mom to her babies. She claims she's being forced to conjure evil and she was in tears. I imagine she was from under the spell long enough to tell us the deal. Satan and pagans will come for her. They don't play about spilling their so-called secrets. Once you sell your soul, they want everything all in. These artists, masons, and gang members have signed their name to a lifetime of dark. King Von, Mo3, who is from Texas, Woot Woot, Young Dolph, and even Tupac all got caught up. They all wore the same symbolic ring, but the first three were allegedly under the same blood contract handled by the same pagan. Maybe the ring wouldn't be a big deal if they were not snuffed out at a very young age, leaving behind offspring. Then the insurance contracts are brought to the table. Once the research was done, it was noted that the same pagan and company collected on the payout/insurance claim. Some of these family members know what's up. This isn't the first time I came across darkness like this. As I researched Extension's murder, people were chopping it up regarding what happened. The industry and the government, who are one and the same by the way, began shutting folks down with threats and making good on promises. A few of the girls that were a part of the Triple X's harem and coven admitted that they were made to pleasure him in orgies with a portal and pentagram on the wall above the bed as they chanted satanic messages in order to be inducted. Now, as quick as they spilled this information, I understood they could be making it up, but a nigga like me makes sure to collect as much info as I can when horror happens to our family, our babies. I know the sinks and commonalities in many of these murder cases, including the industry cases. Too many of our fam members do be tripping. I know a great majority are bad. I know some have went to the dark side, but it is still my job to try to help save any of the Creator's children's souls, as I will want someone to help save my children's. It is all of our responsibilities, especially the immediate families. If these people are too far gone, it will be between them and their dark master, but I'm going to tell it, just in case. What do I have to lose? If I am doing what the Creator asked of his creations, like I said, I'd want someone to do it for me. Say I let a minion trick me into selling my soul, but I could save my offsprings. I would want that. I don't think enough of our family knows that they can always stop digging around in the dark, repent, Ask for forgiveness and get on path. Just start doing the right thing. Spin the block on these pagans and Satan's funky ass. Because while lost sheep are turning into goats and beasts, they are leaving their lineages wide open to suffer. Somebody will pay Satan for all those years on the contract. I've never heard of a satanic blood contract that didn't require like hundreds and thousands of years and souls. That jerk be asking for 1,000 generations to get a Lamborghini, a house, and some Jordans. None of which you can take to the grave, except maybe a few Jordans if somebody don't raid your closet. Meanwhile, the babies are left with curses on their heads, and pagans know it, which is why they require these boys and girls to leave plenty of offspring on the earth under these contracts. The more bodies, the better. They really think they are slick. The Creator God is better at this game called life. He will turn it into paradise. He will protect any of his children who are under the covenant. If you acknowledge your dark deeds, repent, and get on path. Please don't let these pagans and overseers fool you. Been there, done that. I have never sold my soul deliberately, but I have signed a blood contract being young and dumb. And it wasn't until I got into my 30s and began to pray and seek guidance that the Creator showed me how wrong it was for more reasons than one, and how detrimental many of the other traps I'd fallen for, falling behind folks sent here to collect souls, were. They're sneaky little devils, but the Creator knew that and made sure to set up rescue services for his babies, his children. Use them, y'all, if you get off path. Okay, this is Marvin Gaye and Satan with 892,000 results. It talks about how demons turned his music, life for learning paroles, Lucifer, Satan, and the devil. The devil and Mr. Cook popped up on Marvin Gaye's information. And then I put in Sam Cooke and it popped up on his. Also, the gospel star. It says Sam Cooke, the gospel star who did Devil's Music. The Devil Blues in the Crossroads, which of course they're talking about any of the folks who sold their soul. And then The Soul Stirrer is his a book about the legacy of Sam Cooke. So I just put, as usual, information in about the subjects I'm studying. And then there's more pages in there. I studied those pages. And I've studied these guys, like I said, for my first book, FBO. And a little bit in FBO, and then God Forgive Us. So this is information about the 27 Club. And I have Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Kurt Cobain, and Amy Winehouse. And this is, again, a bunch of information that tells about the different artists who died at 27. You can look it up, too. Then I have famous people who died at 30. And this is just thick. It's thick with people. The first person I have is Naya Rivera, then Chris Farley, Nipsey Hussle, on and on. And I think, let me see if it tells me how many. 226 people, famous people I have that died at 33. This I put in 33 Club and Sacrifices, and different information came up about the Super Club called Sacrifice 33, human sacrifices in Aztec culture, and just different stuff about sacrificing in the 33 Club. There's all types of videos on YouTube about all the subjects that I've talked about. And this is Whitney's information. Gladys Knight says Whitney Houston was so gifted that Satan corrupted her. Why was Whitney Houston murdered? Whitney Houston murdered in satanic sacrifice. I met Whitney Houston in the Gaddafi Hotel, or Gaddafi in Hell. Diane Sawyer, Whitney Houston said to her, "The biggest devil is me." And Shaka Khan also said that Whitney Houston's soul was taken by the devil, and they shut her down. You can look those all that information up. It talks about it. Then I have Clive Davis, and I put in him and Satan. I have 641,000 results. It says the first one says Clive Davis is Satan. That's not me. That just popped up on Amazon.com. Chuck D on Twitter talks about the devil, the indignity of Clive Davis. Clive Davis, Satan's Son, Part 1. And it talks about how Whitney Houston, Aaliyah, Jimi Hendrix, Prince, Janis Joplin, Sam Cooke, Otis Redding, Jennifer Hudson, Monica Brandy, all of them were under him and his spell, allegedly. Pact with the Devil, Milli Vanilli duo say they were seduced by Clive Davis and by the industry that Clive Davis was running at the time, the parts he was running. And satanic human sacrifices, Luciferian contracts, all of that is under Clive Davis. That's the first thing, like I said, says that he is Satan. And I believe it. Then I put in Clive Davis and pedophile with 127,000 results. And there was a documentary that pops up first. It tells the story of a 14-year-old girl. I guess has something to do with the pedophile series, and Clive is part of it. Sharon Jeter on Twitter says Phyllis Hyman said Clive Davis was homosexual and a pedophile. And then she came up dead, as I spoke about. On The Truth About Clive Davis, someone is asking why do people call him a pedophile? Clive Davis is not interested in Whitney Houston as a human being. He's only in her music. And it's just more information up under there. You would have to look it up to get all of the information that pulls him together with the information that I have today. I included Beyonce because I mentioned her earlier. This is where her background singer, Kimberly Thompson, accused her of being a witch and said that she killed her cat. She was using witchcraft to molest and sexually assault her. Of course, people said the woman was crazy. But bottom line is, I've seen Beyonce play in the dark myself. I've seen her in Lucifer costumes. I've seen her 666ing it up. I've seen her change her personality. I've heard her talk about Sasha and that being her alter ego. I've seen a lot of her dark side. This talks about the devil talk. Satan is our true Lord. They said Jay-Z said that in one of his songs, which he says a lot of things in his song about God versus Lucifer. And he's normally pulling for Lucifer. You can just look those lyrics up yourself. This says they sold their souls to the devil. Decoding lingering Jay-Z Illuminati rumors, which, by the way, let me make it very clear, I don't think any black people are part of the Illuminati. I think that is for blue blood whites and red blood whites. I think most black people are Freemasons, and there is a difference between Illuminati Republicans and Freemasons Democrats. MC Hammer proves Jay-Z worships the devil in a video. So that's all pulling, and there's also more information pulling up on Google when I put in information about Jay-Z and Beyonce versus with the word Satan in it. Then I have Rap Stars and Satan, 666 and Inverted Crosses, Lil Uzi Vert, 636 Mafia, all of these, Trippie Redd, all of these people that are playing in the satanic dark now. Of course, Lil Nas X, he straddled Satan and gave him a lap dance. But bottom line is the rap stars have sold their souls right in our face. They don't even play anymore. They make sure that we know they sold their souls. On the back of here, I have how hip hop artists died young. These hip hop artists were younger than 30 years of age. And I have shot and killed, number 1, 40%. Traffic accidents, 15%. And I'm going to put that in quotes, traffic accidents. Complications from diseases, 11%. Cardiac arrest and other attacks at 9%. Cancer at 7%. Drug overdoses at 5%. Suicide at 5%. Brain damage and head injuries at 1%. Burned alive and smoke inhalation at 1%. Murdered but not shot at 1%. Airstrike at 1% and a plane crash at 1%. I don't know what 12 is, but that's on there at 1%. It's a dangerous industry that people just keep on dying, quote unquote, to go in. Kanye West said the devil took all the producers, the musicians, and the designers. And we know Kanye West is consistently talking about Satan and Jesus. Kanye West claims record labels prevent artists from saying Jesus in their music. And I'm so glad he got out of that coven, but he's still in the industry, so he's still insane. He needs to get out that industry and go back to the light. Rappers who sold their soul to the devil. This is pretty thick. Can't see it. I'm not going to take all the papers out, but it's just different rappers who have claimed they sold their souls to the devil. You can look it up. I'm also going to have it on my website. Kodak Black and Satanism. I put that in because I saw Kodak Black talking about some satanic blood baptisms and stuff like that through his videos. NBA Youngboy, tatted up, shows all his satanic symbols that he then comes back and says he's not satanic. But they also think that he's a clone now because he was in jail. And they feel like when these artists go away for a while, they're being cloned. They're being, mentally, their minds are being reverted into whatever they're under, those spells that they're under. Musicians who use gangs for protection. And this just gives us a list of people who are allegedly protected by gangs in Chicago, Detroit, Georgia. Let's see, we have here Suge Knight in Cali. He protected people. The Game, Jeezy, Mano, Little Boosie, all of them, they allege Suge Knight protected at some point. This brings me to the 6 members of the Bloods and the Crip gangs. And this just says 6 members of 9 Trey Gangster Bloods plead guilty to RICO conspiracy. Because there's a lot of rappers that are in the middle of RICO conspiracies and charges. And they're in prison. And I have some of them in here. So we have famous Blood rappers. Because most rappers are affiliated with a gang, if not all of them. For the Bloods, the first thing that pops up on Google, I'm not pulling this out my elbows, Lil Wayne, Tekashi 6ix9ine, Cardi B, Chris Brown, Old Dirty Bastard, Be Real, Birdman, and Cormega. But there's many of them that will pull up if you put in rappers and Blood gang. And that means that the government is aware of this, and they still allow them to talk about gangs in their music, to push the gang life, that just like it's not going on. And then when they want the money, they come for them and put them in jail and threaten them and, sometimes lie on them. But, they need to get out the industry and they won't be lied on. Famous Crip rappers. We have Nipsey Hussle, 40 Glock, Spider Lock, Daz Dillinger, Pop Smoke, Bobby Shmurda, Snoop Dogg, Roddy Ricch, Blueface, Jeezy. It's many of them. My throat is so sore from this mess. So sick of us. All of the cases that I've studied, any murder cases, any type of cases, period, but especially murder cases, it has to do with top dogs up here in the Illuminatis and Freemason helping these gang members push sex, drug trafficking, the music, of course, but it's normally a front for all of their vices that they're pushing and selling and keeping up all this noise on the earth. And then we get involved and shouldn't even be involved. I love them because they're black men. I want them to do right. I love the black women because I want them to do right. But they're around here playing in the dark and lying to us. Rappers and rap groups, 143 names. It just tells, it's just a list, just a whole list of Crips. Michael Jackson and gangs. He used some gangs in one of his videos, Beat It. And so no one ever forgot that. And they bring it up a lot. I don't know that he was a gang member, but he was hanging around with gang members. This is funny to me, so I included it. And this is why you ask who all over there. There he is with some of the gang members. Jay-Z's buddy. Some of those other guys. Rappers who have been arrested. So normally with these arrests, that's where they say that these gang members are offered to either come to the dark side and snitch and spy and run drugs and traffic, or they have to serve time, or they need to get out the industry. And most of them don't get out the industry. And most of them, when they finish serving time, it seems like they're a different person than when they went in. We have 2 Chainz, 6ix9ine, Akon, Triple Extension, Suge Knight, Sean Combs, Wiz Khalifa, YNW Melly, who is in there now. YFN Lucci. I think Melly might have just got out. I can't remember. But we got Young Thug in there right now. Racketeer influence and corrupt organizations. That's what RICO, racketeer influence and corrupt organizations. That's what RICO stands for. They are catching a bunch of rappers selling and pushing and whatever else that they already knew they were doing, and now they want a piece of the cut and they want them to do what they tell them to. I said it. So again, we have YFN Lucci, and we have Young Thug Ghana with YSL Records, and they say that they all admitted these things in their raps, and that's how they caught them. And I say they allowed them to do a whole bunch of stuff until they decided they wanted it, and now they're taking it as they sit in prison. And I'm sure people are going to have to pay to get them out. But yeah, there's videos about it. And then, of course, I Googled a bunch of the information on RICO. And that's been around forever. They've been using that to keep gang members and rappers on their payroll forever. You know, whether it's Cali, New York, Texas, Georgia, whoever, they normally keep them straight with those threats of RICO. 21 Savage on the Catch-22 that could lead to rappers getting RICO charges. So this talks about it a little bit, about the RICO charges, and I would say put it in. I don't feel like reading it. My throat hurts. And I'm sick of all of this. But this stuff will be on the site. Google search bar. Who is RICO? Somebody made that quick. And I thought that was kind of funny, even though I don't think the lifestyle is funny. Does YSL have anything to do with the record label or fashion brand? They say it stands for Young Slime Life, and they say it's not associated with Yves Saint Laurent. How will we know? But that came up as a question. And then we have the rappers who allegedly snitched. We got Drake, we got T.I., we have Joe Budden. You just put it in Google search, it'll pull up the rappers who, 6ix9ine, of course, who allegedly snitched and are on the list for snitching. So they're supposed to be low-down spies that have helped dime out gangs and people who are doing things they shouldn't do. 8 rappers who have been accused of snitching again. We got 50 Cent, Drake again, T.I., Alpha Mega, whoever that is, Scarface, Joe Budden, Snoop Dogg, and Cameron. This is the creepiest rap songs ever. We have our white boy who everybody thinks is the best rapper in the world. And I'm being facetious. Of course, everybody don't think it, and I certainly don't. But it's Eminem. He has one of the creepiest songs, and I'm sure there's more than just one. This says heavy metal usually gets all the credit for producing music that keeps people up at night, but don't get it twisted. Hip hop has cursed us with some of the sickest, most sadistic sounds ever committed to tape, which is just gross because we have no business playing in the dark. They have Eminem with 3 a.m., Snoop Dogg with Murder Was the Case, DMX and Marilyn Manson with The Omen, and Tyler the Creator with Golden. Who else? Gravediggers with Diary of a Madman, Cage with Agent Orange. Then this is Polo G explaining how we can sell our soul without money, which is stupid. And they say that he bought a chain with a goat head pendant, and the fans accused him of making a pact with the devil. And he says selling your soul ain't necessarily a contract with the devil. Selling your soul is going against what's morally right for your own benefit. So when you snitch, you sell your soul. Chase clout, pillow talk to hoes, cross somebody you love for money, or just moving weird in general. They're selling their souls, signing blood contracts. He can go somewhere with that. That's true what he said, but they're also selling their souls through these blood contracts. Then I have the 1980 rappers who played in Satanism first and passed it on to the 90s and then the 2000s. And that goes under the information I talked about earlier with that book, Hip Hop. And I have that in God Forgive Us, and then I'm going to have it on the website in the podcast. The Darkest Rap Song. They have a few. Confessions with Cameron, Diary of a Madman with Gravediggers, Mind Playing Tricks on Me with Ghetto Boys, Kim with Eminem, threatening to kill his baby mama, Meat Cleaver, Brother Lynch Hung, 9 Dead Bodies, Esham, Mr. Ouija, and Dead Body Disposal. Just a bunch of crap we shouldn't be playing in. Then they automatically brought up who is the darkest rapper, what rap song has the most cuss words, bad words, horror rap, gangster rap. Is Eminem a horrorcore rapper? Yeah, he is. And then these are the rings. I'm going to show the rings that all of those rappers I talked about wore before they were killed. Cardi B and Devil Disguise. Lil Wayne, of course, with devil horns. Biggie and Tupac, again showing the ring. It's called of Gyges, Gyges. And satanic rappers in hell. So that's that ring. You can look it up. You can look up any of them in Satanism, and it's going to pull up anything they've done that has something to do with Satanism. And I'm just going to tell it because, first off, I don't want to be a part of it as an adult, but our children certainly shouldn't be playing around in the dark with these people. They don't care about them. They don't care about our kids. They wouldn't be selling them this if they did. Cardi B and Satan, and I already talked about her saying that she's sick of this demonic music and stuff, and she just wants to be a parent. You can pull that up. This says, discover Cardi B sold her soul to the devil. Discover WAP, Cardi B Satanic's popular videos. Cardi B, Billie Eilish dubbed Tools of Satan by Michigan Republicans. Is Cardi B's new press video satanic? Cardi B's money video confirms she's in the Illuminati, which again, Illuminati runs some things, but they wouldn't let these people in that frat. You'd have to go through the Freemasons if you're black. Black Sabbath's Geezer Butler explains how Cardi B's WAP, and Black Sabbath is, of course, a heavy metal group, is done for shock value. The Theology of Devil with Cardi B, and the devil will bring evil demons in human form. It looks like Cardi B said that. She did on Twitter. The devil will bring evil demons in human form to bother you. She don't get that she is the demon form. She don't get that yet. She talks about that a lot, how the devil is coming for her, and she's steady playing in the dark and saying all types of things that have nothing to do with God. So she obviously is under something, some sort of spell. But 5,600,000 hits on that. Cardi B says the industry is evil. You can put that in, like I said. She talks about it a lot. Not woke. They're scared. She talks about the dark side of the music industry. She exposes the music industry's demonic side. She says she's felt prejudice in music and fashion. So I imagine people treated her like a black person. She went on a drunken rant. They made sure to put drunken rant in there about the dark side. Drunk or not, she knows about the dark side. She's playing in it. She responds to backlash after saying she was drugged. She responds to negativity. I don't think that has anything to do with Satanism. And she responds to a claim about her putting out older singles. So I just put in again Cardi B and the industry is evil. Or she says the industry is evil. And it brought up 6,220,000 results. Then I put in Mo3, King Von, and Young Dolph with Tupac. And it asked, why do so many rappers wear the same star ring? That's the first thing that popped up. Then rappers who were sacrificed for breaking their oath. What does the hip-hop star ring mean? Hip-hop reacts to the death of Young Dolph. Turn Me Into a Demon by King Von. List of 56 rappers and hip-hop artists who were murdered. And so, I just put that in, and it gave me 11,300 results. Then I have Lil Durk with his white girl putting up her fingers for devil horns. He later dumped her. King Von looking upside Lil Durk's head before he was murdered. I have South African rappers who also are accused of selling their souls. So now the African rappers are accused of selling their souls. And then I am going on to pagan lepers. Now, in regards to pagans who have sold their souls and paid dearly, I will start with 3 of their top tier entertainers before moving on to their party crews. I won't go as deep as our brothers and sisters, but the info is all over the web and in books, so I suggest we use it. Their number one cash cow that was all up in our musical business was Elvis Presley. He was the first so talented white boy that I used in order to find out the skinny on the industry. They will milk you dry, and once you are dried up and addict, causing the studios money, they will happily allow you to destroy yourself, or you will be suicided, also known as murdered. Elvis was all the above. He was large and in charge, popping pills, chasing it with alcohol, allegedly telling it on the government. In fact, Elvis is one of the spies/agents that said he had been given a badge and permission by the FBI and CIA to solve cases. They, of course, deny it, but I know a dang spy when I see and hear one. They can miss me. The MO is the same as the other admitted spies in the entertainment industry and the public and private sectors. Elvis was also a pedophile. Priscilla was 14 when he started grooming her. He was like 25. Many white folks act like it was normal, and they expect us to do the same. Ain't. Their number 2 cash cow was Marilyn Monroe, who consistently was slutting it up for married men, including Mr. President John F. Kennedy, who was sniped out here in Texas. Plus, she was sleeping with his brother, RFK. Yes, she was allegedly bonking brothers. Meanwhile, JFK was blabbing political secrets to her and sometimes us, and she was blabbing to her handlers. They both were telling public government secrets when, before we knew it, gone. I've researched these cases over 30 years, and you want to know the really sick part about being a whore in Hollywood/government? Outside of being a whore to begin with, it's the dark, degrading manner in which they groom them through violence and drugs and the way they play with their minds. These women tell of how they participated in satanic rituals, murder, orgies, how their houses were bugged, and how they were followed by organized gang stalkers employed by the government. Per Helena Stokely, Bryce Taylor, and Kay Griggs, who was close to the Rockefellers, another alleged clan with ties to satanic rituals and government spy ties, even men have whored themselves out for money and possessions and then had to pay their piper once they wanted out. For instance, Ted Gunderson, who was suicided. All of the above evil is inevitable when you are digging in the dark under blood contracts. It goes deep, and it is sad, sexual enslavement, and sick. Allegedly, the MK Ultra kitties like Monroe or Kim K and butterflies like Mariah are programmed and traded around to different men in power on their spy assignments. I am not talking just the men they show us in public either. I don't know how much truth is told when these folks are blabbing. I just collect it and share it so we will stay away from it. Because too much darkness / murders, addiction / cheating, lies, and mayhem is attached. Monroe was 36 years old when she was suicided. For number 3, I'm going to include a conglomeration of rock and heavy metal bands that push the satanic agenda, while pagans now pretend as if rap brought dark evil on the scene. The last 60s and 70s era of free love showed how dark and ridiculous the industry got as Ozzy and them were eating bats, tossing tampons around on stage, and the satanic panic was in full bloom. Think of the Manson murders, the razor blades being put into children's apples and the Tylenol being laced with arsenic, etc. The more we played in the dark with them, accepting ghosts, vampires, and death on holidays like Halloween, the more it seeped into our lives. Too many of our relatives were hanging with hedonistic people, joining in orgiastic covens full of homosexual and lesbian relationships, engulfed in excessive drug use, normalizing prison life and then bringing it home and corrupting adults and our youth with it. I have some pictures here about that, but I think I'm going to finish this and then show them all together. When the 80s dragged the AIDS epidemic to our doorsteps, from all of that free love, black people were immediately blamed. Many pagan scientists and their clans blamed Africans and then African American women for it, when in fact it was pagan men in their labs, as well as pagan men having anal sex, spreading it through blood and semen in parts of Africa, the Americas, and Europe. Black folks did not help by indulging in butt and or raw vaginal sex, nor shooting up or snorting lines, but they picked up every vice from pagans. Let's take a look at the proof. So I have Elvis Presley selling his soul. Who was the real Elvis Presley? He sold his soul for rock and roll. He's it says you're the devil in disguise. It looks like that was one of his songs. It says Irish priest thought Elvis was an agent of Satan. It is rumored that Elvis was a Satanist. I don't put any of that past any of them. Not one person in the industry do I put that past, because they know what the industry is about and they're still in the industry. This is Elvis Presley and pedo that I put in and got 759,000 results. Dixie and Elvis dated between 53 and 55. She was also supposed to be underage. It's reported he had a string of underage women, including his wife Priscilla. They met in Bad Nauheim, Germany during his army career when she was 14. This asked if he was a pedophile. They do not want to believe this man was a pedophile, by the way. And by they, I mean the greatest majority of them. It says here, stop romanticizing Elvis. He was a white male pedophile. He was a racist and a pedophile. Another, Ja Rule said that on Twitter. He was outed as a prolific pedophile. It's just, it goes on and on. And you know his grandchild was just suicided. So you have to be careful in that industry. You don't know what curses you're leaving behind. This one is Elvis Presley being a spy. And it says, Elvis the spy, was the king really spying on John Lennon? Bob Harris says Richard Nixon asked Elvis to spy. Elvis Presley was sent to spy on John Lennon by the U.S. government. Is there any proof that Elvis Presley was a CIA agent or spy? And it goes on to talk about him and Richard Nixon. So all of this will be on the website. This is Marilyn Monroe. Let's see here. She signed a contract with Horns for the Devil. It looks like it was a screenplay to be written, or it was written by Hayes for $2,000 in '53, and then ultimately she sold the rights of Horns to the Devil to Fox for $150,000. This is a quote by her. Hollywood is a place where they'll pay you $1,000 for a kiss and 50 cents for your soul. I know because I turned down the first offer often enough and held out for the 50 cents. So she's admitting she sold her soul. Marilyn Monroe as a spy. The FBI thought so. They thought she was a spy. They called her luscious but with loose lips. Marilyn Comey spy files. So I guess they thought she spied for instance, Democrats versus the Republicans, which obviously she was laying up with the Democrats. So I guess that makes sense. FBI suspected Marilyn Monroe of communist ties. On and on about her spy business. You know, I think there were 7,090,000 results. Then I put in Marilyn Monroe, prostitute. And it says that some people say she was not a prostitute. Some people say that she was a prostitute. And she was laying up with men for secrets. A prostitute. Then rock and roll with Satan. And it talks about the history of rock and roll, heavy metal. We all know that has Satanism attached. If you don't know that, I don't know where you've been. Maybe under a rock. Then I pulled Ozzy and Satan because I talked about how he used to bite the bad heads off, which he later came back and was like, I only did that once or twice. Okay. This says he says Satan kept him safe during COVID-19, so he's still worshiping Satan. He jokes about being a devil worshiper. And then this is where he bit the head. I've made sure to put that in. Ozzy Osbourne bit the head off a bat 37 years ago. And what? They talked about it on Stranger Things season 4. Some people wanted to see the footage. I didn't pull that. It's nonsense. And so next we're talking about the 90s. It got off the rails crazy. That psychotic group of club kids in New York showed their moms and pa's how it's really done. No one in history has flamboyantly murdered, did drugs and drank while dressing obnoxious and dancing off rhythm like the club kids. This was an unadulterated poop show. The murderer in charge, Michael Alig, decided he'd butcher his best friend and lover in his tub because they got into it over sex, murder, and drugs. Let them tell it. I still feel as if they record all of this carnal sex and carnage and sell it as snuff films. I mean, this monster got out of prison and is walking around amongst the innocent. I know niggas that are still behind bars from the racist 3 Strikes You're Out campaign for robberies, but that's Hollywood, elites, and the government for you. It's who you know and what you do. Regarding my last nod to the entertainment industry, I've decided to add in Selena's repping the Hispanic Latin delegation to balance everything out culture-wise. I'll show how pagans and Satan discriminates when it comes to taking us to hell. Selena was adorable and moderately talented. I know Hispanics and Latin people who will take my head off for my opinion about the entire shebang-a-bang, but I didn't research all of this crap to sit on it. I'm sharing just like any entertainer who makes it to the so-called top. You will have to sell or give up something for that position, and it's usually your soul. Selena wasn't above that. As always, I wanted to believe she was innocent. However, once I dug around, I found that it was alleged she and that woman that mysteriously became her right-hand man were in cahoots together, digging around in something pretty dark. It was even alleged that they were in a relationship. I am not trying to spit on her name, no more than I am trying to spit on anyone's name. I truly think it is necessary to know what is going on in order to avoid it. She had decided to climb the ladder and best believe she had to sign a blood contract in order to do so. I'm not sure of all the evil involved that led to her murder, but I do know an eye for an eye applies to everyone on the earth. If you are murdered, you have played in the dark, period. I have my research and backup, but as always, I suggest you do your own so you can really get to the nitty-gritty of the mass evil we are a part of and following behind when we follow behind these folks. Evil pagans leave no stone unturned. So this is the club kids. First, I wanted to show how all of this coke sniffing and breast out and having sex in the club started in the 70s. And it probably started back far longer than that. I think I even have some old pictures of them partying back in ancient days, or maybe like the early 80s. But then they brought it on into the disco halls, and that's where we pop up. Black people started hanging out, doing drugs, partying with them, being gay, and it kicked up and it got crazy. So these are just some pictures from the 70s when we first started selling our souls really hard. And that's where the satanic panic comes in too. And there's the dual floor. He's looking like a pimp. He's a part of the gang. Okay. So we go from the late 60s, 70s, 80s, where we hung out in the clubs with them, the 90s. During that time, we have the same type of drugs that ruined our lives, that'll get us high, that'll cause us to flip on over and start doing all this suspect acting, sexing. And so I would say we started with pills, heroin, cocaine. At some point, crack came in the 80s. Then we have the PCP and other little drugs like that coming on through now to ecstasy. They love to take ecstasy and get crazy in these clubs. Then this is about the club kids who were on the scene in the 90s. I put in occult and murder, and it brought up 2,940,000 results. That's the dude, Michael Alec, who was allegedly the murderer by himself. Now, meanwhile, this guy was the guy he murdered, was cut up in the tub. He left him in there for days. This supposedly was done by himself. I'm sure he had help. And then these are some of the club kids. And you really should get a gander of these folks now that are on the dark side, playing in the dark. Most of them are gay. I have the pictures of them for 2022, and there's nothing nice about it. Most of them are playing in the dark, and they're dressing up in satanic attire. Did King of Club Kids Michael Alec really kill Angel Melendez, or is it all a hoax? Let's play the other side. So I always play both sides of the coin, flip the coin, check it all out. And they are wondering if it was a hoax. Then I have The Voice, and they did a really long article, and it's all in there about the killings when it first happened. So then I have Selena, and basically I just did breakdowns of what was going on in her life at the time. Like I said, it looks like she was playing in the dark. She was seeking spiritual meaning. This breaks it down, talks about some of the things she was doing, seeking her spiritual meanings. This is her throwing up the devil signs. She's on the dual floor. She's in the black and white, and then she has her pentagram. Baphomet hand sign, dual black and white psychosis, pentagram, and Hollyweird. Secret society symbolism agenda equals indoctrinated into the industry. This guy says, I've got a mate who tells me he'll stop listening to this stupid, and he called her a B, singer if I can prove she was in the Illuminati. I told him, look, mate, all celebrities are in the club. He said I'm feeding him a load of poppycock and wants me to give some evidence, specifically for Selena. I Googled around a bit, but everybody online seems to think she was killed by the Illuminati instead of actually being in the Illuminati. If anyone knows anything about this stupid floozy, I don't know why he's coming for her like that, and can help me shove some sense into my mate's thick skull, that'd be great. Thanks, fellas. And so they all started talking to him about her death and the ritual sacrifice and things like that. Hollywood Latinos and Latinas of Satan, sex, blood, and gangbangs in Hollywood. And so she somehow is named on this. Most people appear to think that the goal of colonial crusades or the transatlantic slave trade or even New World exploration by Europe was simply to get present-day America, but this isn't the case. Most people do not realize how most European explorers, bankrolled by the Dutch, British, French, and Spanish Royal Illuminati families, were mostly heading to the Caribbean, lower U.S., and upper South Latin American patch. Just like there's a patch of sea off the coast of Florida State in Cuba, which is called the Devil's Triangle, there's also something called a Hispanic Devil's Patch. From what I understand, at least from what Prince William told me over a decade ago, was that when Lucifer and his fallen angels landed on Earth, it wasn't in the Mideast or in Europe, but somewhere between Florida, Africa, Caribbean, Mexico, Central America, and Upper East and South America, while others have told me that it was South Africa only. Let me see where he talks about Selena. I don't think I put it here. So he included people like Eva Longoria and Selena and other Hispanic singers and entertainers who, according to him, had everything to do with the Satanism that their white counterparts practiced. So let's see, it's down here. This is really good information. I'm going to try and break it down on my website because I just don't have the time right now. But he also has, let's see here. There's Selena. Like I said, Eva Longoria, and then that's Shakira. I couldn't think of her name. My goodness. So he says that they each have, it's sort of like when we're talking about the realms and how certain people are over those specific realms to help pull Satanism in. He talks about how a lot of those girls are over the southern part of America, North America, to pull in people. And so he's trying to say Selena's was over Texas, and she was to basically throw out anything that had to do with, pushing your breast up in bustiers and tight pants. And so, basically, unfortunately, whoring and shaking your bum and just things that are not of God is what he's trying to say. She was responsible for getting other young girls to do things like that. And he names other people and he names other places. This is also part of that. This one he has Freddie Prinze Jr., different people like that in the Hispanic culture that he says they were over. Trying to see if there's anybody else that he didn't name already. Christina Aguilera. Yeah. And then on this thing, it says that Selena was raised Jehovah's Witness, a religious cult founded by the 33-degree Freemason, and that's true. They feel like she was a alpha monarch slave, and that her father was her handler because he also was in the industry. And this just goes on to talk a lot about that information. gives a breakdown. This also is the same information that's telling about that. This person says, I heard rumors her father pimped her out as a kid to have sex with people in the music industry, then sold her soul once she got signed. I also heard her father and sister aspired to have her killed by the Illuminati, but pinned it on Yolanda because Selena wanted to do other things besides music and no longer wanted her father as her manager when she crossed over. He was a control freak. Selena became harder to control, so they wanted her dead to market off her death like they've been doing even after 30 years. She was worth more dead to them than alive. There were two women who killed Selena. One was Yolanda, which they used, and a professional hit woman who was a blind shot her in the artery. The Hispanic teen who first found her stated to the police that she had told them, they want to kill me. He helped her into the hotel lobby before collapsing. That teen was never to be heard of again. So who was they? That means Yolanda wasn't working alone. Only thing is, I don't know if they paid Yolanda to take the blame or if she was on some type of MK Ultra mind control. I have also been hearing, according to her husband Chris, that Suzette was very jealous of Selena, and she was the one who snitched to the dad that they were dating. Suzette had a crush on Chris, but he liked Selena. A lot of things are still coming out. The family isn't as innocent as they made them seem like in the movie. So far, this is all I've heard. And there's also a rumor that Selena was having an affair with a doctor and that she was pregnant by him. This is Vita Creator has a Bruja bless her new workspace before beginning to write. So Bruja being a witch, and she's a Hispanic girl that obviously is playing in the dark. But the reason I put this with the Selena information is it says Tanya Saracho considers herself superstitious and very connected to spirits, so she asked a bruja or witch to bless every new space she enters before she starts working there. As Variety found when it visited her office, Saracho's office also had a doll of Mexican artist Frida Kahlo given to her by a former Stars executive, as well as Selena. A Selena candle on her desk. She's our patron saint, she says. Texas raised, who saw Selena perform at her high school. There's a link, but now she's become bigger than that. It's what this woman who wrote this movie, Vita, said. So, as I put all of this together, I find the different people who are playing in the dark and playing in the occult and conjuring up things. This one is talking about her embraced faith of Jehovah's Witness, and how her stage persona, just like Michael Jackson, did not go in line with it. And then the last thing I have here is 6 relatives of singer Selena drowned in a Hurricane Harvey. So I just put that with that because that's tragic. Let's see. So next, I'm going to keep it moving on to sports entertainers. Black people, cool your jets. These folks are not God. Please pray and research before you start coming for me. I mean, if you still don't see that there is no such a thing as an innocent, non-industrialized, non-Hollywood, non-pagan-led corporate millionaire or billionaire with all of the info that is out here nowadays, I don't know what to tell you. Seriously. I'll start with Kobe B. This is still a tender spot for many of us because Kobe was a bad ball player and his baby was on his heels. She was really good. It was so sad and disappointing to get the news that they both had met their demise on a plane. I've been keeping tabs on the Black Mamba as I do with all of my brothers and sisters in the industry and otherwise. I saw the signs of him going to the dark side. I watched the symbolism and of course knew there is no way anybody can become a millionaire or billionaire and not agree to the blood contracts that pagans make everyone sign and act out. When I read that he had the 666 workout series coming out, among other pagan-led fraternity connections, the sinks were cemented. After the organized rape case and his estranged, strained relationship with his parents, not to mention the video hoe handler they sent in to keep tabs on him and keep him on their road to recklessness, I could only pray as I continue to do for all of the Creator's children. It was sad then and it remains sad. Another one I've watched evolve on their watch is Michael Jordan. I watched and admired him rise to the top and listened to accusations of gambling debts associated with his dad's murder. I researched the ugliness of his sister claiming their dad raped her since her childhood years forward. I read how Michael paid her off while making sure her daughter got her degree as long as she kept her mouth closed. I am not gossiping about these folks. They've made all info I found public knowledge. Many simply pick and choose what will be frowned upon and what will be ignored and or accepted. It's sickening. And through this sick environment called entertainment, we are raising our future generations to think it's normal. Trafficking, gambling, incest, murder, all of this darkness is going on in the entertainment industry that so many revere. It was no surprise as the finale, a black queen and mother of his children, was embarrassed through their media, left behind and replaced with a pagan leper, Op, who left us wondering if she would even spit on a neighbor on fire if he wasn't loaded with cash and stock options. She scurried to a science lab and had twins to secure her pagan family's future with the resources, blood, sweat, and tears his black-brown fam had helped build with. Finally, Magic Irvin Johnson is the third great sports player I'll include because he not only beat the AIDS virus allegedly, but he also backpedaled on faith by telling us to accept his son mimicking a daughter after we prayed to the Creator who advises against this lifestyle. The sports dungeon is a living hell. Many of us were and are clueless to the number of players who were and are whoring with women and men as rewards for selling their souls. Nor are we aware that a great majority are addicted to drugs, including steroids. We also found out that many were and are neglectful to their children and were and are digging around in the dark. I wouldn't include it if our families were not being told the opposite as our babies are standing in line to sell out and hand over their souls. It's toxic, evil. So I'm going to keep tattling. I am praying we will begin to research more and avoid evil, period. So I have Kobe's 666 workout. I have the amount of earnings he has, which, as I said, if you're a millionaire or billionaire, you are for certain in that industry doing what they have asked you to do, which is pushing the satanic agenda. I have him using tennis shoes as horns, and I have him throwing up horns. Then I have some people that claimed him and his family, including his young daughters, were Satanists. It says Kobe and daughter practice satanic Catholic rituals. Read article posted in comments below. In the article, it says Kobe and Gigi attended Catholic Mass in Newport. And allegedly, when you go into the article, it talks about the rituals and stuff that they performed. It also talks about, I was sad to discover that Kobe and his family members were following the satanic pope. I just discovered that Kobe Bryant published a satanic book for children to develop their own inner magic. And I have that book over here. I'm going to pull it in a minute. But before I pull that, I want to talk about the ex-NFL running back Larry Johnson, who they say spouted more nonsense about the industry. And it's not nonsense. It is there. These are things that happened in the industry, and he pointed it out. So let's see. But they also talk about, as Johnson is talking about that, there are people who are asking if Kobe had lost his mind, that he had created an occult brand for Nike. The devil is in the details. And they talk about Nike God of Victory and how he is going through the Boys and Girls Club, basically selling Satanism, pushing the satanic agenda. Arthur deletes children's book co-written with Kobe. I don't know why that was deleted. We'll have to go in there to check it out. Occult symbolism through what he was doing. And they talk about the 666 symbol and all of that and his dark energy. Ex-NFL player Larry Johnson claims Kobe Bryant logo is sigil. Is it sigil? Of Lucifer, and Illuminati caused his death. Former NFL standout Larry Johnson took aim at Kobe Bryant on Twitter, claiming the basketball legend's logo is the Siegel of Lucifer. He also said Beyonce's performance at Bryant's memorial signifies occult ties and believes the Illuminati played a role in his death. Johnson is best remembered as a running back in the NFL, playing with the Kansas City Chiefs. These days, he is known for posting conspiracy theories on Twitter, which often involve the Illuminati. Kobe and his family. The former running back posted a screenshot of a headline about Beyonce performing EXO and Halo at the Celebration of Life for Kobe and Gianna Bryant at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. He tweeted that choosing these songs had occult significance. X is the mark of the beast. 24, he started doing the numerations and stuff. Union of both sex organs is the Halo. Son's numeric value is 6. Johnson wrote, implying these songs added up to 666. The 40-year-old replied to that tweet with a deconstruction of Bryant's Kobe System logo. He posted a photo of the logo next to an image of the Siegel of Lucifer and said if you flip the basketball player's logo upside down, the two images look the same. Success for the successful Kobe Bryant logo is Aleister Crowley's law of reversal. Upside down is the Siegel of Lucifer, the former Miami Dolphin wrote. According to Total Pro Sports, this is an emblem from the 16th century used by Satanists and is also referred to as the seal of Satan. The Siegel of Lucifer is a lesser-known historical magical siegel used occasionally as an emblem by modern Satanists. The outlet wrote while reporting on the tweets. Johnson's tweet received nearly 900 likes and 330 retweets from his 103,000 followers. Many of the comments were fans pointing out eerie coincidences between Bryant's death and the occult. Symbolism is everywhere. They hide in plain sight, so make everyone comfortable with it, one fan wrote. Shortly after the Los Angeles Lakers' death, Johnson tweeted other signs he believed showed Bryant had ties to Satanism and the Illuminati. The former NFL player tweeted a video of LeBron James during the introductions of the Lakers' first game after the fatal helicopter crash and implied the signs James threw up involved Luciferianism. And I would suggest looking that up because there's a lot of information that he gave and I couldn't copy it all. It wouldn't even allow me, which is creepy in itself. Those of us who understand rituals, sacrifices, symbolism, distractions, and possess just an inkling of discernment. That's what he put in one of his tweets. This says Vanessa Bryant is suing the LA County Sheriff after deputies allegedly took personal cell phone photos of Kobe and Gianna. The photos were exposed after a deputy showed the photos to a woman he was trying to impress at a bar. There's no telling what that's about. Vanessa Bryant has been accused of kicking her mom out of the house after Kobe's death. And then it talks about her suing a show, Chamberlain Heights, for disrespecting Kobe's death. This is the book. Next, Vanessa Bryant sues the demons who made her ex-husband write a book for children using magic, Satanism, and Masonic language. Aleister Crowley, Law of Reversal. Ecroft is force written backwards. Masonic belief, dark light equals black white equals good evil. And that has something to do with the book. It says created by Kobe, written by Ivy Clare. That's the bottom of the book. Kobe's system in Nike. The successful commercial. Athletes and logo are represented by the Siegel of Lucifer, turned upside down. Everyone in that commercial series, including Kobe, took blood oaths for fame and fortune and immortality. The infamous tweet that is said to use some sort of device that can change tweets, yet haven't heard it ever being used before or since. The point, this account still picked a random date that adds up. 36666. Kobe is going to end up dying in a helicopter crash. Somebody tweeted this November 13th, 2012. And so Larry Johnson put that on there as well to show that. Somebody already had tweeted that. No so. And then they tell you how you can follow Larry Johnson. I would say put his name in and put in Kobe, and you can get the information. That's what I did. They talk about it some more, of him saying that Kobe was playing in the dark. This is basically the same thing. It's just on another site. Let's see if there's anything different. I don't think there is. Former NFL running back Larry Johnson tweets out bizarre conspiracy theory claiming NFL and the NBA has an effeminate agenda being pushed by the Illuminati. I believe him. This afternoon, former Kansas City Chiefs running back Larry Johnson began trending on Twitter after he made a series of bizarre tweets claiming the NFL and the NBA have an effeminate agenda to indoctrinate professional sports with an LGBTQ agenda. Johnson, who has a history of domestic violence, they didn't have to put that. They put that because they don't want us to believe what he's saying. They want us to dismiss him. Was immediately called out for his stance. Johnson has had a long history of bizarre tweets and has talked about his concern of having CTE. Now he's crazy, let them tell it. I hope he sues him. Larry Johnson believes the Weeknd's halftime show was a satanic ritual. Former Chiefs star Larry Johnson has gone viral again after calling the Weeknd's Super Bowl 2021 halftime performance a satanic ritual. I agree. I've seen the Weeknd playing Satanism in many of his videos on his album covers. He also was with a few of those girls, Selena and some other ones, that allegedly do cocaine, and he's admitted that he's done coke and other drugs. So I'm sure he's tapping into something. The Super Bowl is always an occasion for celebration. The Weeknd put on a show for a crowd of 25,000 at the Raymond James Stadium. The 30-year-old performed a number of his hit songs. Former Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Larry Johnson went viral for his strange take on things. The 41-year-old went off on a wild rant, wasn't a rant, where he claimed the Weeknd, whose real name is Abel Tesfaye, performed a satanic ritual on live TV during the Super Bowl 2021 halftime show. While it is a bizarre conspiracy theory, it isn't the first time that Johnson has made such references. Last year, when Jennifer Lopez and Shakira performed, he alleged that the duo was performing a child sex trafficking ritual. I don't put anything past anybody in the industry. They also talk about how he said the NFL rigged the Super Bowl because several players are part of the occult. He states Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski are part of the occult and are using their star power to recruit people. He implied that the fix was in once NFL decided to give Tampa Bay the hosting rights for the Super Bowl. The Buccaneers did indeed become the first team to play the Super Bowl at home and subsequently became the first to lift it on their home turf. They say his controversies don't stop at the NFL. Whatever. And so he did, again, talk about the effeminate agenda, which I totally agree with. He talks about LeBron James committing a blood sacrifice to help Kobe. And that when Kobe died, LeBron won his ring. Says here, and this is on Pinterest. Off against the 35-year-old MJ, they both combined for 69 points. Last night, a 19-year-old Zion faced off against a 35-year-old LeBron. They both combined for 69 points. So they're just trying to show again that there's quite possibly rituals being done. Then I put in Michael Jordan and Satan, and I got links to Satan. Horace Grant says Michael Jordan was the devil in practice. Scott Barrett said when Michael Jordan sold his soul, he never would have imagined the devil's twist. This is talking about him in the dressing room and how he left his teammates stunned by some of his actions. This is where his sister accuses his father of molesting her. She tells her story of abuse. and that she was raped for a long time. And this is another article in 2009 where she told her story. This is Magic Johnson praising God for decades of health with HIV and then turning around and pushing the gay agenda. This is someone, this mind control black assassin. This guy's on point. They shut down his website, but there's still, you can still find some information here and there. Mindcontrolblackassassins.com. He was once a part of the Black Panthers, and he has really good information about the industry. Anything that I've studied and researched and came to my own conclusions on, I will later see on his page. That's just the way God set things up for us, the Creator. As you're digging around and trying to figure things out, He'll have you figure things out for yourself, and then you will start seeing other people who are in line with what you're talking about. And in this article, he is talking about the war against black people through the NBA, the NFL, entertainment. He talks about Kobe Bryant. This was back before they shut him down. And I don't have a date here, but it's before Kobe died. So it's just some really good information that he links everything together. All of the elites. And I'm going to make sure to put his web address, his website address on my website. But all of the elites and all of the sellouts and overseers, and then all of the people that are supposedly, enslaved to that system. And he tells some good information. This one, he brings in Richard Pryor, who has admitted he's gay. And then Magic Johnson. And it's been said that he did gay acts in the NBA. This is Magic Johnson in a wig, dressing up for some silly reason. I don't know what it is. But all of this goes hand in hand. He then shows E.J. Johnson with his boyfriend in Gothic Black. And I have some more information about E.J. Johnson, where allegedly he is said to self-hate himself, and that he doesn't like black women nor black men. He wants to be a white woman. They said they've quoted him saying that. And I have that information somewhere. And he, this guy also says that he is a beta sex kitten in the industry. Even though he's a big black man, he's supposed to be a beta sex kitten because he's pushing that LGBTQ agenda, and he's gay. So that all goes hand in hand with Magic. And then here's his son after he received his phobia pouch or whatever he got that made him lose all that weight. And it just talks about him saying how he's not some rich girl who's trying to get a show. You're not a girl at all. And then I pulled information about molestation, as I always do, about these young folks. I be wanting to know, were they molested? That is my list of entertainers who have led or helped push the OWO/NWO agenda. Regarding the ones that passed away or were murdered, I'd normally type, may they all rest in peace, simply out of respect. However, I have to be cognizant of the warning that if you are killed or suicided before you repent and figure out right from wrong per word, your soul does not rest in peace. Hence the reason we are to stay on path up until the day we pass on, leaving peace and blessings on the earth. No one can change what is put in stone. Nobody, including moi. All I can do is remind our youth that there is a way to leave peace and blessings on the earth, so that their souls may rest in peace. Many of our ancestors did it, and we can also. Please stop allowing pagans to infiltrate and convince us there isn't. Hockey puck. Stay on pat. Using the Creator's word /blueprint is sweet and straight to the point. Now on to our intelligent, conflicted educators who sold their souls. That's led us astray. Some of the most trusted, decorated professors and educators have led or are leading us to hell. First and foremost, let me point out that pretty much all educators and centers of education are affiliated with secret societies. I don't think all people in secret societies, i.e. frats, sorors, clubs, and gangs, are up to no good. However, anytime any dark happens and the person involved is researched, they are usually affiliated with a secret society. So I keep my eyes open and my ears perked. Some of our earliest secret society members who later went on to educate us lost sheep were Booker T. Washington, 1856 to 1915, who was a frat and born into slavery. He was the son of a pagan leper slave master named James Burroughs and the slave master's black alleged property named Jane. Therefore, he was half pagan and half black-brown. The slave master never claimed Booker, and for the longest, pagans and sellouts pretended that they did not know these partial slaves were white masters and mistresses' mixed children. But whatever. Jane was able to reunite with her black husband, Washington Ferguson, in West Virginia after the emancipation. Though it seems Booker T. Washington was used to lead us astray, it seems he eventually became disgusted with his pagan leper clan because he continuously tried to warn his black-brown fam of the dangers that we were in latter days. Not to mention he began warning us how we could avoid them. Many ex-slaves and some free men thought he was a sellout because it is said he was basically pushing blacks, browns back into docile ownership and bootlicking under pagans again. I say we need to take the good and throw out the bad, as always. Our next educator, Frederick Douglass, was one of those people I definitely did that with when growing up. I really admired his strength and ignored any potential pagan traps. Frederick Augustus Washington Douglass, 1817 to 1895. He didn't quite make it to the 1900s per some history books, but because it was debated, I am going to add him here. I find it important to do so. Brother Douglass was also a product of slavery, but he was a little more peeved about it. He was born into slavery in Maryland on a plantation owned by the master, his daddy, who impregnated his mother, Harriet Bailey, the master's alleged property. His mom's grandmama was also the master's slave. Meanwhile, his granddad was free. Antennas up, fam. He was then sold to the Y House plantation, where Aaron Anthony was the overseer, and once Anthony died in 1826, Douglass was given to Lucretia Auld, wife of Thomas Auld. Now y'all tell me, what is the difference between modern day sex trafficking, adult or child, and this evil filth our ancestors and pagans have slapped the title slavery on? Why do we assume some other type of slavery / trafficking was going on? I totally believe pagans lied as if they came in peace, convinced our fam to sell their souls, including sexual favors for money and possessions, then eventually became guaranteed monsters, and many of our ancestors didn't see it coming, much like the sexual setups and trafficking rings of today. They think they're just going to go to the house and serve a dinner or give up what they want when they want. Or they think their children will be treated decent if they allow them to serve for pay, which I have no idea why. Since when? Going all the way back to the BCs, pagans and sellouts have been pushing the same system. And when has it ever changed? Which led me to believe there are more parents that know what's up than don't. They sell themselves and their children into this racket, and we see the aftermath and come to our own conclusions. Frederick Douglass was sold to serve Thomas's brother, Hugh Auld, in Baltimore, where he felt slaves were treated more like free men than slaves on a plantation. Auld's wife, Sophia, taught him his alphabet, but stopped teaching him after her husband warned that literate slaves turn into literate free men. Though he slobbers about how she treated him like a human, I roll my eyes every time because no one with decency in their bones would own another human to begin with. I don't care. He continued to teach himself to read and write and later taught other black Browns to read, including the New Testament at Sunday school. And before all of you new atheists jump on the bandwagon about the Bible brainwashing slaves, I rebuke you. Just because pagans and sellouts stole word and dissected it and fed it back to slaves and one another does not mean that authentic word wasn't passed down between slaves. And in fact, it is what helped them to turn from warring, violence, sexual polygamy, homosexuality, and trafficking, along with the drugs/alcohol. Any and everything they gotten caught up in falling behind pagan occult, leading them to a curse of enslavement as warned. That's a fact, Jack. I have researched and studied until my eyeballs were sore. We most certainly found our way back on the path through learning authentic words sent to the tribes from the Creator and ignoring the indoctrination pagans and their helpers had us accepting. I need to add, I have not found any educators from the early 1900s to present that have not been educated by their white masters. However, we also have our education and word of mouth passed down to us from our ancestors. Our grands and our parents have left positive testimonies, just as some have tripped out and passed the pagan agenda down to us. We can find out what is meant for us and what is not, fam. Pray about it with love and discernment and come from up under their spells. Their secret societies ain't for us, even if you call yourself putting your own soul into it. The rituals are still steeped in pagan roots. Even the fracks from Africa/Egypt were built with pagan occult attached. Pagan-led schools were built from our blessings, but they're occult. Find the sinks and commonalities that began in, but they are occult. Find the sinks and commonalities that began in the BCs, following us to the U.S. slave trade in the ADs. All of these learned leaders were indoctrinated by the very people who had enslaved us in ancient days and used that same agenda to enslave us after. Again, I am not saying every educator and or frat or soror or gang member is up to no good, any more than I'm saying a non-affiliated person cannot commit a heinous crime. I am only including what I know by the research I or others have done. We have to learn to separate the good versus the bad and go forward. Over the 30 plus years that I have been researching, there has not been a high profile murder, rape, heist, sex ring, drug traffic case that did not involve a gang member or a person or persons who bragged about being in a fraternity, sorority, or club. I have thousands of cases, but I will only include a few for backup because time is not promised and I have to get these pods out and then continue with my encyclopedias, which will have all of the cases I've studied in them. And please don't forget, I have included some cases in God Forgive Us and FBO as well. So I have the case of Jelani Day, who was hanging out with a white girl in a sorority, also a fraternity, Sigma Phi, and came up missing and dead. The FBI would not search for him, and they wouldn't put out like the whatever they need to do to get information from her and from the people that were around. They wouldn't take the case. So his mother put out a lot of information, and I picked up a lot of information about him. Now, this person asked, did Jelani Day not know what he had got himself into? A cult by the name of Freemasons. And they went in and pulled a lot of the pictures that show him in the Freemason lodge. Oh, I guess I could show some of them. They're so tiny. I'll make them bigger and put them in the book when I get ready to put it in there about the cases. This one, he's doing the dog stance. This Omega Psi Phi Masonic is showing that he was part of this sorority and fraternity that she was a part of. I think he was like Delta, and I don't know if those are affiliated, but I know they both were in sororities and fraternities. Okay, so here they're talking about her. This is the white girl that wasn't arrested. Nothing was done to her. And she was the last person seen with Jelani. My friend Kara Boaster has been relentlessly harassed since reporting Jelani, her student, missing. People were blaming her, sharing her contact information, threatening her family. She was the teacher who reported him missing, not a criminal. If you see anyone making threats, sharing her information, please report it. We all want to know what happened to Jelani Day, but this is not the way to do it. Please help her by reporting the comments that are making her information public, threatening her, etc. if you see them. And then this talks about, let's see, if friends and family, if you come across any misinformation circulating on social media platforms regarding Kara Boaster, please report it. She is the clinic director at the Illinois State University Speech and Hearing Clinic at ISU in the CSD department. We operate as family. It was never and is never uncommon for Boaster to text with her students. She is one of the most genuine people I know who truly cares deeply for each and every one of her students as if they were her own. She, as well as everyone else, wants to know what happened to Jelani Day, but the spreading of false information and harassment has to stop. Again, if you happen to come across this information, please report it. Now, keep in mind, when I dug around in all of this, it was insinuated that she was messing with this young man and that they also went to weed clinic. That's where he met her, at some weed clinic. So I dug around in this, but I only am going to include a little bit of information here because I have so much to do. Jelani Day's demise. Did his professor Kara Boaster or fraternity sorority play a part? That's her. This is the Sigma Sigma Phi Honor Society. That's who she's a part of. His mother put a post up saying, it's unfortunate that I have to state this, but when I see this and I see that this is a young white girl that has been missing for 48 hours, and I have a black son missing for 23 days, and she has nationwide coverage and the help from the FBI, I can't see nothing but racial disparity. There's an identified body. Now search efforts have slacked, and I'm angry. Jelani is important. He is loved, missed, and I want him back home. And I don't blame her. That's her baby. But we do need to stay on the path and stay away from these people. This is information they also put up about Jelani. How much people love him and how many friends he had. This girl is saying he had their hearts. He'll be missed. And again, he's throwing up his frat signs, and that's him in his coat because he wanted to be a part of that medical field that girl was in. This is his dad, Steve Day. He's part of this Sigma Psi Phi fraternity, and they were going to have a fish fry in Jelani's name to raise money and awareness, but he's part of the fraternity that Jelani later was part of, Omega. This says, for 75 years, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated has sponsored our International Talent Hunt Showcase, a program started to give high school students an opportunity to showcase their talents. And now all of this stuff goes hand in hand, industry-wide, fraternities, sororities, I've already talked about it, gangs, it all goes hand in hand. I'm not going to put it on Jelani Day. I'm not trying to pull any of these people down. I'm saying all of this stuff goes hand in hand. So when we have these murders and stuff, we need to dig around so that we'll know what goes along with what we're involved in. I care about him because he's a black male. If there's a whole lot of things that don't come together, and if anybody's getting into things that they shouldn't, I need to be aware of that because I don't want to be around here pushing something that I shouldn't be pushing. This is more information about him and how the FBI won't get involved. And that they also said he committed suicide and tried to protect the girl. So they finally put that up for him when they started looking for him. And I don't know if I've said it, but they found Jelani dead. this girl, she went on their page. She went on the family's page and said this stuff. So I know that it's hurtful and I wouldn't have done it. I don't think that's right. But some of the things she was saying, they're valid. I just don't think she should have been on the family's page at that time doing it. She could have just put it on her own page. Let's see. I don't know where it starts, but I'll start at the beginning. You really are a fool. He tried to be white. I need for you to go on somewhere, honey. We probably should be investigating this fool because it's obvious she got a problem with Jelani. This other person said, I don't give a damn if he hung with crocodiles. What does that have to do with him being missing? So obviously she said something about him hanging out with this white girl. You are far by mental. Girlie, evidently you have a problem. Take this mess somewhere else or go to Toys R Us and get some toys. She said, have your whites or Greeks done anything to help? Oh, fake that. Black power to black people that pledge to blacks, not look for acceptance by our captors. Which is why they cussed her out. Somebody told her this is not time for your foolishness. Somebody said block her. Then somebody else said black power all day doesn't make you black power all day. You ask the dumbest questions. She said he tried to be white, and now because the white media didn't mention him, you pull a black card, period. I never pledged to Greeks, European society, never raised my hand to oppress blacks. It's stupid to think you're not going to be treated black because you pledge white. Now go cry to them on that. And then she asked, I think I'm reading these backwards. Are those whites looking for him? The ones he catered to, are they in the picture? Has his fraternity looked for him? Why be silent about them? Looks like he tried to be white and they have not recognized him at all. His own mom came on and said, he's in a picture with his friends. What does that mean? She said, were you going to answer my question? Okay, because you're pushing a narrative that white media isn't doing anything, but it looks like the white life he lived isn't working for you. He played to Greeks. I made a clear statement. I'm black power all day, but don't use being black when you don't get your way as being. Let's all get along, and they turn their backs on you. Blacks have real problems out here. These are people who's saying that the girl, Kara, is involved because she wasn't cooperating at first. This is a white person that decided to come on their pages and say 543,000 missing persons are recorded in the U.S. Every life matters. So I put on the back, white people who say all lives matter are the equivalent of the founding fathers who wrote all men are created equal while owning slaves. I did that because that's ridiculous in my opinion. Of course, all lives matter, but we were talking about Jelani Day that day. Also, I have Derek Chauvin, same difference in what was going on in his case. Let's see here. When we got down to the nitty gritty of it, George Floyd knew this guy. And they didn't tell us that at first. And some people might say, well, so what? Who cares? He still shouldn't have choked the life out of him, stepped on his neck. I totally agree with that. But he didn't know this guy. He was doing very dark things. They had, he's been in porn. They had did things together in the club as far as drugs and stuff were concerned. So it's not like they didn't have some sort of relationship. And I'm just from digging around, I'm thinking that he did something for these people and it backfired on him and then they killed him. This is not just about race, is what I'm saying. You know, you have to dig deep in these cases, and I do. And so I don't have time to put it all out here. I'm saying, you know, research yourself as well, but I have a few little blurbs here I'm going to read. Derek Chauvin knew George Floyd pretty well and was afraid of black people, nightclub co-workers say. They worked together for 17 years off and on at the club where Chauvin was security and Floyd Let me see if they say what Floyd did. He was also security. So George Floyd's brother came forward and talked about how they knew each other as well. Some people asked, did you know that George Floyd starred in porn? And then I pulled George Floyd's records and just to see what he had been up to. And he had busted in on somebody before and pistol whipped him and was a part of a robbery. And he was living a kind of dark life. If not dark, it was dark. Candace Owens' film exposes lies about George Floyd and BLM. She's always going to be on the side of these Republicans, so I have no use for Candace, but I do listen to her information and put it with my information. I'll take information from anybody and try and check to see if it's true or a lie. And sometimes she's telling the truth. She's just a self-hating little wench, and I don't have time for it. Background check, investigating George Floyd's criminal record, and this is where I found like somebody did a whole article about his criminal record. So there's information in here that I'm going to put in that it matters. We can't just keep on looking over stuff and saying, well, that doesn't matter. You know, so-and-so happened. It all matters. It's all relevant. There's a reason that I can't go out here and sell my body in the street. I might end up dead. There's a reason that I can't go out here and pick a fight with someone. I might end up dead. I can't go rob a store. I might end up dead. And these people are not just dying innocently. They're doing things they shouldn't be doing, and they need to cut it out. And we need to stop pushing that narrative. I'll never side against my family, but I'm not going to pretend like we're not getting into things. We are definitely getting into a lot of dark, and we shouldn't be into it. And then when bad things happen, people want to just sweep that under the rug and say, well, don't bring that up. We need to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up. You're not going to be around here cutting up and then something happens to you and then I pretend as if you weren't cutting up. I go from the beginning of the story to the end, A to Z. I want the whole story. I don't want parts of it. This is about Ahmaud Arbery. Again, he knew the guys who killed him. He was smoking weed and some other things in school, and it was alleged he sold some drugs, and the police officer's son and the police officer both had dealt with him in the past. So these people knew each other. I don't know exactly why they were after him. I don't know why they killed him. The person that owned that house said he had been to that house numerous times. He has him on tape. And some people want to say, well, he was jogging. He just stopped there. It's not true. Once they got to the nitty gritty of this, they don't know what, they wouldn't tell us. I won't say they don't know what he's doing in that house. They wouldn't tell us what he was doing in that house. And he had visited many times in that neighborhood. They cannot prove that he was jogging, yet they threw that out. Is it right for somebody to shoot somebody in cold blood? Nope. And when it's a brother, it pisses me off even more. But this young man needs to sit down somewhere. He had threatened his mom. He had did some other things. He was on psychosomatic drugs. So he was headed in the dark pretty deep. And it's unfortunate he met with his demise and his maker. A suspect in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery was involved in a previous investigation of him. That's the father and son with their hideous selves. They knew him. He knew them. His father said his son was killed in a modern day lynching. And so all of these articles, I put them together and I studied them and I did a whole bunch of adding and subtracting, and yeah, I got down to the nitty gritty. I don't want to talk too badly on my brothers and sisters. I just don't want to, but I'm not going to ignore the truth. All these folks need to sit down somewhere, and I'll have the information a little bit more detailed in my encyclopedias and stuff. I got to figure out a way to spread what we need to know without pulling my people down too much. Sometimes I'm angry. Sometimes I just go ahead and go for broke and I'm like, sit down somewhere. You're out here selling dope. You're doing this. You're in a gang. But sometimes I don't, that doesn't make me feel good. And so I am praying about it and trying to find ways that we can educate each other without me telling too much of our business. in public. I'll tell our business in private. Text shows police told homeowner he could contact Ahmaud Arbery shooting suspect about trespassers. So this is just more breakdown of what happened to Ahmaud. Evidence the Arbery jury never heard, and they talk about just different things. Storekeepers nicknamed Ahmaud the jogger for stealing and running away. He wasn't jogging that day. The killers called him a racial slur. Things like that they didn't allow. It's all in here, and I'll be adding that later. There's definitely an ongoing perpetual sync commonality connection to people in power who have been educated at colleges, especially Ivy League colleges, and their frat sorors. It then trickles down to frats and sorors on the lower rungs, just as club and gang affiliations have. All of these cases were public information. I didn't have to be shady and read diaries or pay folks off. Every single case I have ever researched was free and for the taking. Pagans may try to hide the most pertinent info in hopes that we won't put the entire story together, but there's still mucho info out here if we read. Something is rotten in Denmark. I have put these things together before in every case where my common sense and beliefs tell me bad stuff does not happen to good people. There is always a reason a person is murdered, and the person and their closest confidants know. But we are left in the dark, fighting for evil rights unless we research. Do I think anyone is in the right for murdering another human being? No. Bottom line. Still, I know people will reap what they sow. And for every time somebody says karma will catch up with whoever did this to my loved one, I sit and wonder why they don't see that same karma catching up to their loved one. Most of us are hypocrites. That's why. We can see an eye for an eye with everything and everybody except when it comes to what we love. In the case of Ahmaud, I again saw the same sinks and commonalities I see in every murder case. Race is a factor, and racists do suck, but our baby's hands are not clean. Firstly, he allegedly tried a stint at selling marijuana and possibly other drugs when he had his first encounter in high school with the fat racist policeman whose fat racist son later shot and killed him. What type of coincidence is it that this man had arrested him as a teen for possession and evading arrest, and then later tracked him down the night he was hanging at a construction site that he visited regularly? The owner had cameras. Ahmaud was on tape at least 5 times. He also had a shoplifting charge and was on probation for reasons the judge did not allow to be brought up in court. His mother had called the laws on him in 2018 and reported that he wouldn't give her her car keys, and if cops were confrontational with him, he would become violent. This incident caused him to be diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. Is any of this a reason to kill someone? I don't think so. The only reason I bring these series of events up is because this is the MO of a person on something harder than weed. Anytime disorders and schizophrenia comes into place, something deep and dark is at hand, including playing in the dark. I wasn't there. I am here doing research on these cases for the last 30 plus years, and they don't venture far from the same sinks and commonalities. Once you begin selling or trafficking drugs and or sex, destroying the community and folks' lives with no remorse, fighting and disrespecting your parents, being loose and wild, and playing in any type of dark occult crap will hit the fan. And pagans in power will always be there to collect sellout souls for Satan. It never fails. And we can't figure it out because we don't want to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth when we are half of the problem. Sandra Bland's murder is the last case I will include in the secret society, frat, soror, club, gang, initiation, payouts, and consequences chapter. I was peeved when Sandra came up dead. Some say suicided, if for no other reason because she was a black woman. No shame in my game. I don't want us dying before our time, less known murdered allegedly. I read she had attended a college in Texas and was a part of a sorority. I also read that her mom was a soror as well. Though I am well aware of the MO and sinks and commonalities to look for in these cases, my antennas didn't want to go up on Sandra's case. That's another thing I regularly admit. I never want to accept the evil we are playing in on the earth. I wish none of us were bending over for Satan, but especially my family. Once I dug deep into the background of my sis, I noticed the same similarities, sinks, and commonalities as other black folks who were suspiciously dealing with a correctional agency / police department. Too often. Many end up in prison or dead. As I got a familiar nauseous feeling in the pit of my stomach, I wondered if she was an informant, because she wasn't just being pulled over for traffic violations a couple of times. She was having chance meetings with these dudes too often. If it is one thing I've picked up from gangs and Greeks, frats and Soros murder cases, it's that anything you allow them to let you go on, they will collect later. In some way. It's just like the mafia and the mob. So please know what you are signing up for. Once you see any signs of selling out or selling your soul to these grand devils, get out. I have all the research I completed on all the cases and will be including them here and in my encyclopedia. Next up, I'm going to add in their dark literary groups here, because their shenanigans actually shines a light on the OWO-NWO agenda setup even brighter. If nothing else, they simply need to be mentioned to get a full pic of what pagans are up to when inducting us. I didn't find anything different to include, literally. It's the same old regarding their clubs/secret societies. You have to follow the guidelines and rituals in order to be accepted and rewarded. There's the Algonquin Roundtable, the Elizabethan Club, and even the literary Pulitzer winners who are always in a frat, club, or gang. Obama. A Pulitzer Award winner who I have much love for, along with his favorite rapper Kendrick Lamar. I love both of them, but that doesn't mean they are not helping push the pagan agenda, and that doesn't mean I won't blab. As I said, I won't go deep. Just know there's nothing new under the sun, and as always, everything is connected under their pagan agendas, including any and all of their literature and prizes. Moving on to their government/politicians. From the BCs to the ADs, anyone who runs for office or helps with the setup are backed by the pagan elite, who are responsible for making our country, states, and cities run uniformly through their occult agenda. Let me start out with this here subject, stressing that pagans are going to come for me, and anyone who doesn't go along with their status quo. And they will send their sellout overseers as well. They do not want anyone bringing up the fact that they have ran this country and other countries into the ground by using blatant wickedness, trickery, and racist tactics. They have done it since the day their forefathers were welcomed in, pretending they come in peace. From Africa to the Americas, they have had cards up their sleeves and never intended to play fair. Absolutely nothing has changed. I don't care. I don't care. No one will get me to see different. I have researched for over 30 plus years. Thousands of years per timelines and in reference, and these people have never changed. They will lie to portray change. They will pull in a person or two who looks as if they've changed. They will plead and beg and throw out a couple of crumbs. But as soon as it looks as if we are getting treated a bit equal, and I mean equal with them as opposed to one another, they will turn the tables and start acting funny. And of course, psychotic. Please take a look at our political history if you think I'm blowing smoke. Let me see. I have the information from my first pod showing the New World Order book. And it had information in there that broke down the order. And one part that I copied here: the family. Homosexual marriages will be legalized. Parents will not be allowed to raise their children. The state will. All women will be employed by the state and not allowed to be homemakers. Divorce will become exceedingly easy, and monogamous marriage will be slowly phased out. The workplace. The government will become the owner of all factors of production. The private ownership of property will be outlawed. Religion. Religion will be outlawed, and believers will be either eliminated or imprisoned. There will be a new religion, the worship of man in his mind. All will believe in the new religion. This is every time they do what they do. The New World Order is the old world order. There's nothing new. Then I have some of the politicians. This is Jimmy Carter, one of my favorite presidents, even though he obviously is pushing the agenda as well. I think a full investigation will show that Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered on his behalf. He's just as adorable as he want to be. A true leader doesn't create separation. A true leader brings people together. Biden authorizes $500 million more for Afghan refuge relocation. The black community. Anything for me? When you voted for Biden and refused to look at what he's doing. The time is coming when everything that is covered up will be revealed, and all that is secret will be made known to all. That goes for Democrats and Republicans, and that's Luke 12:2. Never forget, September 10, 2001, Donald Rumsfeld holds a press conference to state that the Pentagon was missing more than $2.3 trillion, but the next day something happened and everybody forgot. September 11th. The slave master no longer has to whip, shoot, lynch, rape, poison, and brainwash you. He has taught you to do it yourself. Speak truth and share knowledge at all times. Never allow a house Negro to keep you from saying what is real and true. That's their job. It's their job to pacify you, shut you up for massa. The white man didn't come to Africa and just start killing the Africans off. He came as a friend, came smiling, acting like he wanted to hold hands, be buddy-buddy. He learned from the African, married the African, then killed them and took their land. He did the same with America. He greeted the Indians as a friend and then wiped them out. Today, some of you are still dumb enough to trust his smile. Dr. Khalid Muhammad. The oppressor would not be so strong if he did not have accomplices among the oppressed. Sellouts. That's to y'all. Then from my first pods, I have the branches of the military. The Army, the Navy, which I was going to join, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Coast Guard. So that's land, sea, air. However they can get to our land and take over, they will. I also put the junior ROTC in here because they start very early recruiting the babies. Then I have a list of wealthiest families. And let me see if I need to pull up anything else. This is a timeline. So let me see real quick if I need to talk about this. I'm just going to go ahead and show all of this and then I'll pull up. Then I'll finish reading. List of wealthiest families. And I have the list of the Waltons. They're like at 244 billion. And the Arnold at 182 billion. Those are just some. The rest are in there. When I put in the wealthy families that rule the world, I got looks like trillion, 150 billion results. That's probably 2 billion, 150 million. Let's see. So we have those 13 families and their bloodline. Then I have the world's richest families here, which is the Waltons and the Mars, the Cox. She has a few Saudi Arabian families. Baumbachs, Hermes, Chanel. Oh, that's the family that owns those brands. Is it true that the world is ruled by 5 families who possess half the planet's wealth? Of course it's true. And drizzle it on down to one family. They have Bill Gates on here, Ortega, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Michael Bloomberg. What they don't have is any black people. While blacks are falling behind them like they're insane. Then I have Freemasons promote pedophilia and satanic ritual abuse. This is just about how it's pushed on us by the same families, the same groups that we want to believe are innocent. This talks about George Bush and pedophilia and when all that pedophilia was going on at the White House when Senior Bush was in office, and the Franklin case, all of those little news articles. They shut that down, start killing off people. I talk about it in here. The problem isn't whether Democrats or Republicans are in charge. The problem is that Americans worship political puppets and believe they need them to run their lives. I agree with that. Malcolm X was not a Republican, and he certainly was not a Democrat. As he once said, we won't organize any black man to be a Democrat or a Republican because both of them have sold us out. Both parties have sold us out. Both parties are racist, and the Democrat Party is more racist than the Republican. That is funny. I don't know why he said that, but I'd say it because they pretend as if they have our backs, and most of them don't. They're on the same agenda as the Republicans. Rumors surface. Oh, I know that comes with something else, so let me go ahead and read this. Okay, from the 1900 ADs to the 2000 ADs, I'm going to touch on some of the biggest known liars and political lies we've been sold throughout history. Peep this. In the beginning of sin and abominations, also known as the BCs, any pagan-led government where natives have allowed lepers to infiltrate, colonize, and then set up their military, hospitals, schools, missions, and parks, forced the citizens on the lower rungs of society to suffer. There is no way around it. It is the hierarchy of the setup. If there are rich, greedy folks at the top, there will be poor beggars at the bottom. Whether it is a dictatorship, a democracy, or even their hated socialist setups, people will suffer under these systems because that is the purpose. Only the strong are meant to survive, hence the warring internally and externally at all times. If they kept word first and stuck to the truth, actually abiding by the eventual lies they sell us, I have no doubt the system would work, but they don't. They lie as if they are going to be fair and human, then psych. Moving on to the early 1900s. The Nazis, who I've researched and found to be German, Brits, and even faux Jews, killed as many people as possible if they continued to declare belief in the Creator and His laws, yet went against Him using a cult. Elites in charge continue to lie to this day as to why WW1 and WW2 happened. However, I have researched their history thoroughly and show the choice was given as it is given today. You either accept pagan occult wars, the LGBTQ agenda, and all pagan culture completely, or else. And allow me to close with the fact that we currently have a few government buildings made in the shape of a swastika that still sit on American soil. They claim they can't afford to replace them, and the original Jews/Israelites, also known as us, along with faux Jews, Jewish people, accept it. The next gigantic lie I'll cover occurred in '64 when Johnson promised while campaigning that Americans wouldn't be sent to Asia to fight the Vietnam War. Once in office, he lied again, stating Vietnam attacked the U.S. in the Gulf of Tonkin. He then proceeded to ship as many Americans as possible overseas to fight an unwinnable war. Their words. Nixon continued the ruse by adding in Watergate, which displayed more of their lies and deception. The war claimed 58,000 lives or more, and as we read his lips, there were, in fact, new taxes. Oh, and P.S. His aides and sidekicks are now coming out literally with books and admissions that Nixon was on the DL with his mobster best friend Rebozo. And how? Allegedly, Watergate jumped off because there were tapes with evidence stating those facts. Who knows with these closeted moles? The elite secret society / frats and Soros are supposedly keeping the mandatory homosexuality on hush. It's the easiest way to get unsuspecting heteros to join. I'll move on to the presidential Bushes, who are said to be part of the elite Yale Skull and Bones. I'll start in the 80s when rumors spread throughout the political field that children, mostly little boys from an orphanage in Omaha, Nebraska, were being invited to parties with grown pervs, and the Bushes were said to have been identified amongst the crowd. The scandal was called the Franklin cover-up, which I just showed, and I'm going to show the rest of the info when I finish this. In the 90s, the stories became darker, creepier, and more common among gay guys who grew up and decided to blab. It was said that young folks were being snuck into the White House to have private parties and orgies with top officials. It went deep, and many of the accusers were suicided, imprisoned, or allegedly paid off. There were many famous politicians and entertainers that finagled their way out of the scandal, only to be named later when Epstein's Island was put on blast. I also want to mention that I found some of those same people involved in other satanic pedo rings, like the black babies in Atlanta who were prostituting for many sick bastards in top official positions, government, political, corporate, and religious. And I have that information in my books, by the way, FBO, and more importantly, God Forgive Us. Many parents knew it. Atlanta is like the red light district in Asia. Filthy, older predators, male and female, help pass laws in Atlanta so that members of our tribes will be willing and able to do any and everything with them for a buck, including murder. The 70s, 80s, and 90s were the draft for Satanism through secret societies, as New York, Detroit, and Chicago had been the draft for occult and debauchery through secret societies in the earlier 1900s. Once the NWO agenda was in motion, Bush and company lied and told the citizens of the United States that Saddam Hussein had mass weapons of destruction in 2002. The government/military then proceeded to launch war against Iraq, which many citizens felt was specifically to steal oil. Please see 9/11 by Michael Moore if you haven't. Hundreds of thousands of citizens from the West and Middle East allegedly died during that 8-year war, costing the U.S. roughly $2.4 trillion. There are thousands of other lies that I could list, but I'm trying to keep my examples down to 3 or 4 due to time constraints. I got to get these pods one and done, and I'm behind as always. I want to include this tidbit before moving on to religion. As long as the citizens consent, i.e. go along with these lies and violence, the government can and will continue to steal trillions of dollars of private property, while thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people will be enslaved or killed, and true freedom, equality will never happen for the alleged minority. We must wake up, learn the cycle, get on path, then stick. So the other information I have is the rumors surfacing that Nixon was gay. And it talks about Rebozo, as I said. Again, they asking, was he gay? But that doesn't stop the rumor mill. That's me flipping the coin, getting both sides of the story. This is also part of that. I also put it in the Google search engine to see what would come up. And many articles came up, 25,800,000 results. Some of them watch from the Lost Nixon tapes. Gays are born that way. Rumors surfaced that Nixon was gay. Was Nixon gay? Richard Nixon discusses homosexuality. He was supposed to be so against it, but aren't most of them. This is the buildings that have the swastikas, and there's many buildings, and many of them are in America. So that's barracks at the Naval Air Station in Coronado, California. This is also the barracks. This is the buildings occupied at the U.S. Navy's Amphibious Construction Battalion. Swastikas. This one is, looks like the same thing, Navy Coronado Barracks. So far, military buildings, government buildings. Probably them bragging that they are Nazis and still over here running things. Glendale, Arizona medical buildings. Oh. Swastikas. Oakson Physical Therapy Building. A Kenyatta National Hospital, and that sounds like that would be in, Nairobi, Kenya. This one is also in Kenya, I think. Kemry University. Might be the same building. This one is in Germany, which that makes perfect sense. Of course, we have swastika buildings in Germany. This is in Decatur, Alabama, at a Methodist retirement home. This one is in Amsterdam. And so is this one, I think. Yep. And I may have already did this one. It's also a hospital. I don't see where it is at, but it's a hospital. And most of these are Google images where people took them like just flying above, and they saw swastika houses and buildings and were like, what the and so they took pictures and they put it on the internet. This is about giants, and I'm not sure why that is in here. Okay, so now we're at religion, missions, and missionaries / pastors and preachers. I mean, do I really need to go here again? I pretty much covered how we have allowed our gifted, blessed blueprint, the word, to be written down, shredded, added to, and taken from, then fed back to a great deal of the masses. I named names in the past podcast, starting in the BCs with the first sinners, Adam and Eve, then inviting in so-called missionaries, building so-called missions in Africa, Asia, Australia, and the Americas during the ADs, and maybe even the BCs. But I guess I should show the affiliation of religion to the government / education / frats and sorrows through a couple of cases, plus the amount of greed and sins and abominations allowed against the Creator, not to mention the satanic, paganistic actions being done in the name of our Creator, pushed by pagans, overseers, and or sellouts. It can't hurt. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I promise to God, I truly cannot believe some of us. I love the black family as a whole. This is just sickening. I totally see why we are in just the worst position, more now than ever, with churches on every corner. I'm not saying our fellowship and congregations can't save the world or even the hood. I am saying I have found more and more churches planting themselves in the hood, causing dissension, chaos, and confusion. So many of our leaders are digging around in the same dark as pagan leper leaders. Some of our brothers and sisters are worse than the drug dealers, crackheads, and gang members who walk the streets. I named a few names in my quick reference of God Forgive Us. Local and national murder cases with some of our better-known congregations attached were prevalent. I know pagans and sellouts know that if you make the church look distrustful and dirty, folks will walk away from it and religion altogether, which is why they've recruited so many folks to dig around in the dark for them. They're talking down on our Creator's ancient blueprint, replacing it with a cult while swearing that it is our original teachings. And majority-wide, we're not realizing this is nothing new. Pagans have done this to death. They've tricked Nagas into accepting their occultic roots because we do not know our own history. They've got these lost souls conjuring dead ancestors using familiars, crystals, and sage. They are manifesting visions. Child, niggas are straight up tripping, doing a bunch of rituals and dark that you don't need in order to get what is promised to you, as long as you are positive. You don't have to do anything but have faith in your folks and our omniscient positive presence that puts us here. Minus killing, stealing, lying, jealousy, hoeing, being disrespectful to our elders. Most know what's up. There's a blurb in the Torah and the Quran under the 10 Commandments. It's under Exodus 20 in the KJV. You don't have to kill cats and buy up a bunch of candles and leave dead spirits and demons in the air, who, by the way, will come back to collect, per pagans' confessions. All we need is to simply do unto others as we have done to us. Plus, use our familiar blueprint and the blessings will flow. But too many of us are a part of the lost tribe of sheep, being led by the devils and not even noticing it. It's so stupid. Though I wrote this breakdown of religion before I researched and pulled my government hierarchy charts, the examples I pulled fit here perfectly to show how they've made church a business without having to file taxes as a business. Greedy, dark elitists are at the top, always. The president and 3 branches, their agencies, put in place to run and control our world, i.e., the military, FBI, CIA, EPA, Department of Agriculture, CDC, FDA, U.S., State of Education, Department of Homeland Security, Housing, WHO, and etc., etc. Religion is no doubt part of their government setup, but they place more importance on their major corporations, schools, hospitals, local parks, and national parks in order to practice their rituals, and the communities sectioned off to be ran by the principalities put into place by you-know-who. Then they roll out the business diagram for their missions, churches, and religion in general. And it is a billion-trillion-dollar business. Yeah, it is gross, sad, but 100% true. The amount of money that elites and faux preachers and false prophets are raking in would make Satan blush. The last study reported in 2016 through 2022 showed religion contributing around $1.2 trillion annually to the U.S. socioeconomic value. WorldEconomicForum.com and WebTribunalNet.net is where I pulled the figures. These devils are scandalous and have no shame. Pod 5 seems as if it's never ending, but finally I have my last example of the medical field profession. There are plenty of hospitals and clinics ran by pagans welcoming us in, especially if we are clueless. And let me ask, as I always do, when have we ever been treated fairly, with compassion, without an ulterior motive? I have case after case where we are handing over our blood, our organs, our lives, and our souls to folks we have no idea about other than their past actions they've been so kind to share. Let's start there, shall we? First and foremost, we're sharing the earth with black market/organ thieves. The amount of money a person can get for organs is disgusting, immoral, and evil. I had no idea that a layman can gather up organs and sell them if they know the right channels to go through. Don't ask me why I didn't have any idea. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. There is a law in place that prohibits citizens from selling and buying organs, but the medical and black market business is booming. I have researched documents accusing wealthy people of buying organs to survive. I have researched cases like Kanika Jenkins, where it was said in newspaper articles that the hotel she was found murdered at was caught up in organ trafficking, among other nefarious acts like drug and sex trafficking. It was a hangout for gangs to do shiesty deep state business, according to some. The rabbit hole went deeper when I found out how many black folk are all over the country and out of the country selling organs, and were in fact selling folks legally and illegally, allegedly. Gangs were named again, red and blue, with pagan secret society/frats at the helm. And I found the same commonalities in MO with other trafficking in other states and cases. Tears flowed as I saw body counts rise over the years through assisted suicide, justifiable homicide, accidental car accidents, insurance schemes. I saw an article recently where thousands of black women are missing, and a few black watch groups were concerned because they felt our sisters' wombs could be used in this new experiment of uterus transplants. They are coming on out with their intentions, like connecting the dots. We are sharing the earth with wicked, insensitive demons, devils, witches, warlocks, and blood vampires. I have been made aware of the needs certain people had regarding our blood. Our bloodline, which is known as the chosen bloodline, is supposed to be priceless, much like melanin. According to many sites and articles, our blood, like our organs, is greatly needed and wanted. Not only are people like Angelina, Billy Bob, Mac, whoever, and Megan Fox admitting that they play in the dark drinking blood, other white people have admitted it's needed for their rituals. I don't know if it's true. I just know we are openly supplying blood through plasma centers and blood drives. Plus, I can attest to medical facilities collecting blood, because the last time I went to a Parkland clinic with my ex, those mofos had us pump out like 6 to 8 vials of blood each. I asked the nurse, what could y'all possibly need with this amount of blood? She claimed she had no idea. That's the first and last time I've ever gone to a Parkland clinic as a woke adult. I know what they are capable of doing with it, and that is good enough for me. P.S. We supposedly had a clean bill of health, and again, they needed 12 to 14 vials of blood to know that. I consider actions such as that suspect. Plus, I take into account past warnings we've been given over the years about trusting these folks, such as the Tuskegee experiment, Planned Parenthood, other medical facilities, making us sterile without permission. Lies about our babies dying, waking up with limbs amputated for no reason, on and on till the break of dawn. We are duped, used as guinea pigs and slaves, yet we keep going back for more. We keep trusting these folks with our well-being, which brings me to mental illness. We have to be touched in the head to keep punishing ourselves in this manner. Could it be, dare I say, a curse? A repeat of the same evil-ass mistakes that our ancestors before us made? I believe in my heart it is, and I've got the cure. Let me tell it. Please follow me to the last pod vid, number 6. Pick up 6.
Girl, you're like my mother, my sister, my lover. Irreplaceable, nothing can take your place.